Last I knew they needed she doesn't want to lose off because I went to both houses. Gail? Too short. Beat me up. She takes charge. She does a good job. Did you find out the yellows knock up there?
Yeah, I have. Pretty busy. I'm calling Millings up to the Carl's place.
Oh, good. I'll send you one.
2 trucks, one right after another, back and forth. 40 loads here today. I got 400 loads.
Job with the lighting, man.
I'm the only guy around with Millings. And I backed the place up and everybody's still. You got the only gallon of gas here, so you can charge what you want. He's going to need probably 100. So that means you're still doing probably 150 trail.
Delivery.
And the wife goes, like, all those millets. Your loads are big. Yeah, sure.
They're close.
Yeah. So, but you bring all them in. I said, well, guess what?
There's handouts here if anybody wants them.
That's how it always works, you know.
Agendas, got some stuff about the casino.
They didn't want it. They always say,
That's the problem. There's stuff like that. Either it's a complete albatross, or it is a
you know, that's when I'm 100 years old, I'll get my cash and I'll sit. Money from beer.
So if you think about like lane change, we were collecting along, spending 20,000. Then CPO got involved, we shifted there. But we didn't actually.
You know what you might want to do is going out.
We didn't actually trigger the designation.
Right.
Density does trigger the Shulman Road there. You will, so make it out.
No, but now that we've changed lanes, we have a plan.
This one's open for you.
Because they're the swamp.
This one's not open for you.
Thank you.
What you guys do is trying to get the thing switch out. One's a Democrat, one's a Republican, and their votes just cancel each other out. That's what you just did here with the bottles of water.
Oh, do you know what time?
Neither one of them had a drop taken out of them. You just switch me over.
I suppose you want to borrow.
No, I don't.
Do you know what today is?
Tell them.
Go ahead. Today is 53 years ago.
Yeah, in March 12th, 40 years ago, I married my wife.
He's a lucky guy, Jeff. He's a lucky guy.
I know it.
Oh, really? Thank you. I keep telling them that too, by the way.
I don't want to forget.
Hey, I believe it.
I'm being reminded already, I'm not even married yet.
December
I've been married
23rd.
45 years and I still remember. It's just good practice.
Okay, I'll call this meeting to order. Board of Selectmen for Tuesday, August 15th. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, first order of business is approval of the agenda.
Make a motion to approve the agenda as presented.
I'd like to amend it.
Okay.
And what I'd like to do is move the casino discussion under 11D up to after the light discussion, which is 11A.
Can we just take that out of order when we get to it?
Oh, we can do that, but that would be changing the
So it's
agenda
on the
after we...
agenda.
Yeah, we're not adding or removing from the agenda, we're just taking things out of sequence.
Moving them out.
We can do that.
I know we can.
You can take it sooner if you want.
No, that's fine. Okay, we'll do it later if you want.
Okay.
Okay,
So we need to vote on approving the agenda.
Okay. All those in favor of approving the agenda?
Aye.
In parliamentary procedures, we'll just say that don't interrupt and people have the floor and you get the floor by being recognized. Approval of the minutes.
I make a motion to approve the meeting minutes of August 1st, 2017.
Second.
Okay, any discussion?
Jeez, I was gonna second that. Gotta be fast.
I looked through the whole thing and I didn't see any, even spell
job.
check or nothing. Good job, Peg.
She caught the one that there was on the first, second page.
Oh,
Okay,
God bless.
there's no further discussion?
Nope.
Right on.
All right. All those in favor?
Aye.
Communications. Under communications, I do have one thing that I received from Energize Connecticut, Eversource, and I have a handout there. And actually, Lenny, you want to say something about the free light bulbs? Yo, why don't you do it? 'Cause,
I'm not prepared to, but I could.
well, I'm
You
not
look very
doing-
bright tonight, so you know you got something to say.
Well, it's a swap. It's a, because of the energy, well, I guess you have stuff up here. Because of the energy saving measures we've undertaken throughout town between the buildings and the streetlights, you get credits. And we're pennies away from our third $5,000 grant. This, we have $10,000 in the kitty right now, and most you can have is two. You can use it, you can use, accumulate. So this will use up part of that. And basically what happens is they come set up shop here in the town hall, and if you bring in your incandescent bulbs, they will swap out up to 5 LED light bulbs free of charge.
Free is good.
Can I swap the LEDs for some incandescent 100 watts? So that I can see,
far as I know,
so I can see?
No,
I know.
I got to kind of defeat the purpose.
I noticed all the new street lights.
Yes.
Way for,
yep, they're LEDs.
and they're really bright, they're pretty good, you know? Now, I know we discussed this before. Did we, remember we were discussing about buying the street lights?
We did
We
not.
have to. We did not have to.
We did not do that.
No.
We did discuss it, we didn't do it.
Right.
Yeah, we discussed it like for years,
But we didn't realize that they were going to do it.
and they did all that for us for free.
So.
And we're saving money
We're
on our
saving money
green.
with these new lights.
Yeah.
Right?
So our light bill went down with Eversource.
I have a
Without
really
having to
good,
pay.
I have a really good contact at Eversource, going back to the storm we had there when
Ooh.
it was ugly, and I kind of let them have gas and stuff. So we have a really good relationship, and he called me, my guy called and said, hey, how'd you like brand new LEDs?
Yay.
I said, how much? Free, sure.
Good enough.
Free is for me.
Okay.
Good enough.
Good, thanks,
Thanks.
Lenny.
Good.
How do you do that? How do you get the bulbs?
You come here. It's at the town hall. There's a
10
flyer.
to 12,
There's a mailing that's gonna go out to everybody in town, and there should be some posted at town hall.
10 to 2.
It's here, it's September 9th, which is a Saturday. And, you do, oh yeah, you have to be a town resident. It's for a town of East Windsor.
I'm here more than I'm at home.
You can lead that case. I don't know if they're gonna check IDs.
I'll give you my 5.
Okay, public participation. Is there any public participation?
Paul?
Really?
We're waiting for
None for Paul?
Up?
Okay.
Vic?
I have a question. Will we be able to discuss anything that's on the agenda after this?
There'll be a second public participation, number 10, or not 10.
Well, how about for 11D?
11D, and I think how we'll handle 11D is after we move it up to after 11A, is Jason has something he wants to say. And I have something I want to say. And then maybe we'll discuss it amongst the selectmen, and then we'll open it up. So yes, we will have public participation.
Excuse me, may I ask that you talked about identifying, and I don't know your job.
Okay. Ben, you want to say your name and we'll...
Thank you.
Are you chair of the Warehouse Point Park District?
Yep.
There you go. I just want to make sure you have the title.
Okay, further public participation.
Really?
All right, move along. All right, board commissions, resignations, and appointments.
I'd like to make a motion to appoint Tim Moore as a regular member to the Planning and Zoning for a term expiring 11/01/2020.
Second.
Discussion?
So I've been to most of the Planning and Zoning Commission's, Planning and Zoning Commission meetings since Tim was appointed as an alternate, and he's already proved to be a valuable member of that group. They've had some turnover in terms of longstanding institutional knowledge there, and I think he'll step in nicely to provide a perspective that will be beneficial to the commission. So I'm happy to see him step forward.
Okay, any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Good.
May
Yes.
I comment something? Lori Whitney, Town Planner. So we anticipate, well, I am anticipating a lot of applications coming up, and the PZC still has 2 alternates available, vacancies, and the Inland Wetlands has 2 regular members and 1 alternate, still to be filled. So if we get really bombed with a lot of applications and we can't get a quorum, that's going to be an issue. So if you want us to be as expedient as possible with applications, it would be great if you could fill those vacancies.
Can a selectman be on the Wetlands Commission?
No, I don't believe so for charter.
No, I had to get off.
I don't believe so.
Maybe the JI might catch that, might get slipped under a story. Please.
We need volunteers.
Okay. Okay, 250.
The books are in.
Hey!
They're $20, and I have some with me tonight. If you want to buy any.
Yeah.
Other than that, we will be at the 4-H fair on Saturday all day, selling the books and selling all of our merchandise. And then we also have a meeting coming up this Thursday at the Osborne House, which had its ribbon cutting. We had a fantastic event there that the Historical Society had put on. Does anybody know what headcount that they got?
They were parked.
Lots. Say 600 or something?
They were planning for 600, I don't know what the final number was, but they had a great turnout.
Well, they must have done that.
Yeah, we did really well as the 250 selling merchandise and getting the word out to people, so it was great for us. So we will continue to do that. And the books are on sale at the Broadbrook Library, the Warehouse Point Library, and the Town Hall.
And if you attended this weekend, you could have gotten it signed by the 2 authors.
And she'll also be signing it at the book signing in September. I can't remember the date of that one.
That doesn't make any difference.
There will be another book signing if you have not got your book signed. So
I got mine.
I got mine done.
yeah, that's all I got.
Okay, good.
And inside the, at the ice cream social inside the book, they also listed all of the 250th dates of all of their
Events coming up,
So
yeah.
that was really, really nice. It was easy to keep track of that. They did a great job, and by the way, the Historical Society was outstanding. Outstanding. I mean, they had people there spinning yarn, and they showed the kids how to do it, and the floors in that building are unbelievable. It really was a great open house.
And the barber shop, they had a great day as well.
Probate court had a wedding.
Yep. Yep.
And our Honorable Gil Hayes was the MC
Sure
with his
was.
big old top
He
hat
looked
on.
great.
He was the justice of the peace
JP.
before the wedding.
Yeah. It was great. And Jim Strumper was there with his horse and buggy and brought the wedding party down, and they had rides for the kids across the street. It was really wonderful. And a lot to do for everybody. Great family event.
Also, it didn't rain, which I was worried about, but great weather. Last year was so hot that the ice cream would melt.
Nasty. Yep.
This was great, this was perfect.
on the pavement last year.
And the ice cream too was great. Tull?
Palmetto.
Palmetto Farm.
Palmetto Farm.
Contour.
Great ice cream.
Okay, Broadbrook Mill Site remediation. I really don't have anything to report. Does anybody have anything they want to say about that?
Well, Jason just explained why the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers are involved. That was my biggest question as far as that was concerned. I'm good with that.
Yes.
I have a question. Did we submit anything to DEEP?
We've given them some drawings, yes. And,
I thought we were submitting what our desires were, the way I thought it was left.
and maybe Lori can follow up, but what I did was talk to Maurice, and he gave us some feedback. And one of the feedbacks he gave us was, we were saying, well, let's keep the street and let's build some parking lots and put in some buildings. And he said, well, the capping is going to be above the street, so how are you going to drain the street? And that's a question, and Lori might say, I don't know, or maybe some kind of a catch basin or whatever.
Yeah, so subsequently, he actually emailed me and suggested that we propose some sort of a detention basin, which will have to be somewhere between the buildings, I guess, and the proposed parking. Because the detention basin can't be in the wetlands or the floodplain. So that's the only other place to put it. So it was a good comment, because we'll have to design for that.
And also, the drawings we originally made had a kind of like a circle of buildings. We kind of talked to him, and we might put buildings along Mill Street, a couple buildings there where it's not polluted at all. And then maybe a couple building sites up from the access road. But so we haven't really given him a detailed design of exactly what we want.
Excuse me here. Why, and I'm calling these people clowns, why is it up to us to design some kind of drainage and retention basin here? It's not our property. They're the ones that contaminated it. And they're telling us that we need to hire somebody or whatever we got to do and spend money to design something for their problem?
Well, we've got
They
the-
must be happy as hell that the Army Corps of Engineers are involved, because that'll go on for another 5 to 10 years. You better believe it. With Army Corps of Engineers, take them forever.
I don't know, Jason?
So just to clarify what the process is at this point, this is so there's an application that's been submitted to DEEP by AECom on behalf of UTAS for remediation. As part of that process, the approval process from DEEP, interested parties, in this case the town, has an opportunity to advise DEEP what we want to see happen there. What it sounds, and Lori, correct me if I'm wrong, but what it sounds to me like is that DEEP is suggesting to us that it would be in our interest to suggest to them that they include a catch basin in the proposal as part of the approval process.
Correct.
So it's not, nobody's telling us to do anything. What DEEP is doing is being helpful to the town in suggesting what may be in our interests in terms of having AECom and UTAS remediate the property, and making sure that those considerations are included in the final permit. Is that fair, Lori?
It's not the way it sounded.
Okay,
Maybe not.
Dick?
If I remember right, that motion that was passed unanimously by this board was to not pile dirt on top of it and hide it. It was to remediate it to the point of being able to reuse it.
Use it.
And that doesn't mean that we gotta be putting catch basins and the buildings are gonna be below the street and all that. That means to take the contamination out of that area, replace it with clean and suitable materials, dispose of the contamination in a legal and approved manner so that we can redevelop it. The part on the west side of the access road was fine and dandy to cap it, but apparently, and I don't have the motion with me, but I'm sure that motion said to remediate it, not just cap it.
Well, we're not saying talking about capping.
Yeah, but we need to convey this to DEEP, and we need to do it very soon, because the clock is just about wound down.
I think if we look in our minutes of our last meeting, that was specifically.
That was said, and that needs to be
and voted
communicated.
upon, that it was to be remediated for future use,
Right.
commercial use, but not to be just.
Not
capped.
just piled underneath a bunch of dirt like it'll go away.
Well,
And I think that needs to be communicated to them strongly.
I think if you want to do that, you certainly are welcome to do
Well,
that.
you're the first selectman, you're
I'm
supposed
not
to
gonna
be
say that 'cause I know what
handling
they
the
want.
boards. This was a vote of the Board of Selectmen, Bob.
You don't even have the motion in front of you.
I'm sure I can get it in a minute.
So the site
You
will
got
be
it?
remediated no matter what goes there. If nothing goes there, it will be remediated. I think what the DEP is suggesting to us is that if we propose pad sites or parking, they will not need to use as much fill in those areas as others. So if we're proposing a pad site for a building, or the sidewalks and parking in another area, and even with a detention basin.
This shouldn't change the elevations a quarter of an inch.
Well, no, it will
Okay.
have to be capped even underneath these items.
It says, okay, I do have the motion.
Good, good.
It says to remediate the mill site east of the access road to the point of being usable for future commercial development, not capped. That's exactly what the, and this is what needs to be communicated to DEEP.
That's fine. I think
Not
that-
capped.
Yeah.
On town stationery and sent to them.
But the remediation is capping.
It doesn't have to be. It can be removal also.
Oh, it can be removed?
Yes, absolutely.
But even then, I think they still have to cap it. I think that is.
No, they would put it back to the original grade with clean material.
Okay, but
That's, you dig the pockets out.
certainly something we can investigate.
No, this needs to be communicated in a forceful manner, or you're gonna end up with a big pile of nothing.
Okay. Further discussion.
Thanks, Jason.
Okay, so now, I'd like to talk about blight. Fran?
Well, I read through this, and it talks about, sorry, I read through this, and it talks about a blight officer
Talks about a whole board of appeals.
and a board of appeals, and I don't know who that is, or.
It's nobody. That's the,
And I see nothing, I looked through all of our, everything, and I remember my husband serving on some kind of board,
He did.
but I don't remember.
Who was it
It
appealed
was
for?
Property Maintenance Code Board of Appeals.
appeals,
As
right.
outlined, I believe, Dale, in the ordinance.
But that's 2008,
Yep.
and I see no minutes or meetings since then,
But
so.
the actual ordinance itself in the Property Maintenance Code has not been reviewed or revised since it was adopted in 2001.
So are we not enforcing it simply because it's old?
Well, I'm looking at this, I have 2008.
But the means and measures of enforcement in this document do not provide for any prescriptive measures of enforcement other than writing a letter.
So it's got no teeth.
No teeth at all.
For the
And that was
blight-
discussed.
For blight,
Well, for property maintenance.
okay.
But you have two different
Right.
ordinances. You have a junk or blight ordinance, but
Right.
you also have a property maintenance code ordinance. And
Laura, you might want to weigh in on this with me, but the junk ordinance deals specifically with the zoning enforcement officer, and that allows for a fine if steps have not been taken to remediate or to deal with that issue.
Which we just got a zoning enforcement officer. We've been with that one, correct? For a while?
Since May.
Pardon?
Since May.
Okay.
We will have a new zoning enforcement officer starting September 5th. However, he is not Casio certified and will still have to take the training. I'm sorry, he's not Casio certified, so he'll have to take the training and I'll have to kind of be his mentor for a while.
Okay, so what we need to do then is, as far as this ordinance, since we're aware that we're behind the curve, is probably bring it back in December. Would you be up this, would that zoning officer be up this month by then?
Hopefully. I know that there's classes beginning in September.
I hate to put you on the spot, I'm sorry.
Pardon?
I hate to put you on the spot, but we've been so far along
Right.
this
I
route.
was reading through that, I don't see how we need to do half of the things that they're telling us to do, so.
It's out of date.
It doesn't follow the Connecticut general statutes properly. But I did get some examples of other like ordinances, so we could kind of compare. So I just got that from a bunch of planners over the listserv today.
So what we're looking at, hopefully, is for December, to have a blight ordinance update with the local towns, giving us some input as far as where we need to go and what the statutes should look like for the town of East Windsor. Is that a correct statement?
So you are asking?
Well, this is so far out of date that
the ordinance, or?
There's a big difference between the two documents or the two ordinances, Dale. The property maintenance code was
one.
That is one. The blight or the junk ordinance is another.
Second.
And effectively, the twain meet, but they will never be.
Right.
Okay.
You would think that they would be.
You
right.
would, but if you take a look at one as supplemental to the other, okay, or assisted to, then yes, that's where they meet. But from a legal perspective, and what the town has done with these two competing ordinances, is create one that is enforced by the zoning department and one that is enforced by the property maintenance code and that property maintenance code enforcement officer.
And we don't have one.
And
you don't have an appointed one. I have assumed the role of the acting for a number of years by virtue of a directive from a previous board of selectmen, but was never officially appointed. It was never included in a job description or description of duties, and
that are included in your contract?
No.
We didn't stipend you for that?
No. I was offered at one point in time a one-time $500 stipend to do that, and I think that was 2 contracts ago, Jason, but it wasn't included in the contracts at all. Here is one thing to think about, and that is the original property maintenance code was modeled after the International Property Maintenance Code, which is a prescriptive document that encompasses a wide range of regulation. And at the time this one was adopted, it was vetted by a separate committee and determined to be too restrictive for the town at that time. My recommendation would be to, and I've spoken with Bob about this, I didn't have time to get a new updated copy of this model document prescriptive to 2017 from the ICC, which is the code writing body. But I have ordered it, I expect it to come in And my recommendation would be to have a committee take a look at this document, vet it, style it, bring it up to date, current with the times that we live in, provide for some teeth of enforcement, or a path that would provide the town the opportunity, short of going to court and having an attorney present, give the town the authority to seek compliance with the ordinance.
Well, it's funny because you were just talking about, violation penalties in part 105.4. It says violation penalties, any person who shall violate a provision of this code or fail to comply therewith or with any of the requirements thereof, it goes on and on.
Yes.
But there's no teeth in it. So it doesn't say how or what the penalty will be.
The most
It points to the statute.
Right, it does, but it still doesn't say,
The most
in
I can do
this
is
one
write
it
a
does
letter
not.
and continue to write a letter. Now, did the board have the opportunity to see what I had hoped was a community-friendly letter last meeting? And that is a letter that I've been using all spring in order to try to convince certain individuals to clean up.
I don't believe that was.
I don't have that.
No, it's not in the packet.
I have a copy of it, and I'll get it to you. It's the one I showed you, Dick, in my office.
Yes.
Here is, I think, where this thing, and this is just my opinion, but I think the community has reached a point where we have to take a look at the whole and not just the singular. And by saying that, I'm of the belief the community needs to make a commitment to this, and that commitment needs to be done through the updating of the ordinance, the model document, and then provide for the funding and bring in a part-time property maintenance code enforcement officer that becomes part of a whole, becomes part of a team. And when I say part-time, it may be 13 hours a week. And they would work with zoning, they would work with building, they would work with health, they would work with human services.
Would that be a contracted position and not an employee?
Well, as a part-time person, it would be without benefits.
Right. I just want to make sure we're discussing the same.
Absolutely.
Same page.
It would be an unaffiliated, part-time position. That's just a proposal. If you'd like me to put together a breakdown or a synopsis.
I'd also like to see what's going on in the towns around us. I mean, we kind of decided not to rewrite the book if we didn't have to. So if Ellington's got something that's working for them, or, of like means. I mean, we're small, we're not at South Windsor, so it's not going to apply to us. We're not a Windsor Locks, but there might be something of like size and structure that we could kind of play off of and rewrite the whole
I
thing.
think what we have right now, though, is so broad. It is so wide
It's not
open
even
to
worth.
interpretation. It states in this property maintenance code that grass will reach a height of 24 inches before it becomes a property maintenance issue. Well, my experience has been when grass gets to be 24 inches tall, it lays over. So
And
it's
we've
not
got
24.
weeds and all kinds of stuff in
And it's
that
not
grass,
24
yeah.
inches tall.
Yeah.
I put together a spreadsheet probably 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago, that was presented to the Board of Selectmen regarding the communities in our demographic resource group. And it laid out exactly what the position was, which departments were involved in it for the various towns. Probably, I think I did 22 towns. I have a copy of that. It's outdated at this point in time, but it was the direction the majority of communities our size and our budget description were headed with this.
If I remember, there were like 13 towns that we used to compare ourselves to as far as demographics and population and whatever, and Coventry, Summers,
Bolton.
Bolton, yeah. If we could get that kind of
Windsor
ideal,
Locks.
I don't even think it was Windsor Locks, because even though it was a smaller square footage, the square mileage, the population was a lot more dense than East Windsor, so I don't remember if that was one of them.
I think it would be nice to see the town recommit to this, because this has an incredible impact on our assessments. It has an incredible impact on the perception. The majority of these are solved over time. The majority of these property maintenance code issues and blight issues, we can actually target what the cause of it is. And it's either a mental health issue, a substance abuse issue, a family relationship issue, or a neighbor issue. That's the majority of where these issues come from. We've seen a large number of foreclosures like every other community throughout this state, and that is one of the tools that I actually use to try to keep an eye on things, are the lis pendens that take place, and then finally the foreclosures. But it's not an easy thing to do. Without the eyes of the community, I've had some houses that have been vacant for 8 to 10 months. I had no idea. The neighbors were mowing the lawns. And if you don't get a complaint, you don't know. So there are different tools that we can use through the ordinance adoption process that would require lenders to provide notice when they have foreclosed, that would provide lenders to notice us when a property is vacant, and that would require lenders to provide month-to-month maintenance on the exterior of that property so that it doesn't reach a point of decline or disrepair.
I know we've had property owners on both sides of certain neglected properties who have complained because obviously the blight affects the price of their home, you know, the valuation of that whole property area. So I get that. I get that. And you're right. There's one place that I know in Tromley, the guys, both of them mowed the lawn and trimmed the trees in front of the house for years, and nobody really knew it was blighted. I mean, because they took care of it.
And please don't take what I'm about to say in the wrong way. But when I say a commitment from the town, the town needs to take a look at particular buildings that it owns. One of the pieces of property that I got regular complaints about was an old schoolhouse out on Barber Hill.
Yep.
And that languished for 13 years, and I was helpless to deal with it.
That was a very cumbersome issue.
Absolutely, but in saying that, you know, and I'll give another example. We have every property on School Street and Warehouse Point right now that owners have put an incredible amount of money into. We're undergoing extensive repairs to our drainage, to our roadways, to our sidewalks, to our curbs, and we have a building that the town owns that we haven't put any money into for over 40 years. Any discernible money, it's become a catch-all. And that's I'd like to see a recommitment from the community.
Got to pass a budget over 2%, don't
Yeah,
you?
I know, it's a catch-22, I get it.
Okay. I get it. I understand what you're saying.
The only other option we have is with some of the properties that have become problematic. Those properties are extremely expensive for us to go to because it requires legal, it requires extensive legal monies, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 plus to get it to court, to get a judge to make a judgment, but then you still have to get the individuals to do it. And that's part of that commitment.
Well, the first thing to do is not worry about where we're going to find the money to do the second thing. The first thing to do is to do the first thing, which is to rewrite the ordinance in a way that actually makes some sense. Once you do the first thing, you start thinking about the second thing.
There you go. They at least set down the path.
Good, Dick?
The other key to this issue is I think we really need to get our own house in order before we go telling everybody else that their house is out of order. I mean, we've got properties that are owned by this town, right on Woolham Road. I mean, most people probably didn't even know there was a house there till yesterday when somebody cleaned it up.
I tried to deal with those people a number of years ago, Dick, and they said very bad things to me.
But they
Very
did.
bad.
But in essence, we own that property.
Well,
It's
and
cleaned up now, but whether it actually, the sale takes place or not, is the next question.
Some of these properties go into probate, and when they do that, it's like the black hole.
Right. they got it.
Because you can't do a thing until it emerges. The majority of these problems solve themselves, and it's just time and patience. That's what it amounts to. The mortgage companies, the lenders, have learned how to work a system. And the system is they hire a property maintenance company that goes and puts a sticker on the door. You call that number to report a violation. They request a written violation emailed to them. By the time it gets to them, they no longer are the property maintenance company because the lender rolls their property maintenance companies over every 90 to 120 days, and the property maintenance companies want 60 days to process the complaint. So you're constantly chasing a ghost.
They've got it figured out.
To a point, I have used a particular tool with them that has gotten some results, and that is placing a caveat on the deed so it locks the property in place. They cannot borrow on it, they cannot sell it, they cannot move it, they can't do anything with it until that caveat is lifted.
Yeah, but that only implies that they're trying to move. Generally speaking, if you're trying to move or sell, you're gonna clean it up so it's in sale condition. Either that or you're gonna take a beating on the sale price.
Well, typically, these companies do the same thing today, and these mortgage companies, these banks, and these lenders are doing the same thing today that they did in the 80s. And they are placing all of these properties into a department or a folder. And they keep these properties long enough to get the tax benefits out of them and get the write-downs on these notes and on the properties. And then they sell it at an absolute auction at a reduced price, and that's actually their profit on the loan. So, and that can take 36 to 48 months for them to move it through their department.
So, Al, you suggested that you wanted to have a December review of perhaps a new ordinance or rewritten, or what exactly is that you're
Well,
looking
the
for?
ordinance will have to be done by this board, but to give us an idea of what the local, the people.
We could do the similar towns.
Yeah, the similar towns, that kind of thing, because there's no sense rewriting an ordinance if something is close enough to what we think we can enforce and what we think is best for our town.
You know, obviously Rand and I could
Right.
weigh in on things, but did you want to maybe have a subcommittee or something? And maybe come up with a...
I could do that. I could meet with you guys during the day. It's not a problem.
There is a fundamental difference, though, Dale, that is going to separate this town from every other town around us, and it is that proverbial elephant in the room that we're going to discuss next.
Right, but that's going to be its whole.
That's going to change the whole dynamics of a property maintenance code and a blight ordinance as well.
It's a one property though.
It's the...
But that is, but the effects of that one property and the effects that it's going to have.
There are two separate issues at this moment. The issue before us is the existing ordinance.
Yes.
Right. Right.
But I think we
Whatever
need to take this into
the group
consideration.
decides to do
On the
as
other.
they rewrite the ordinance is for the group to do and present to the board at the appropriate time.
Right.
So you'd like to see this in December then?
Yeah, and you know, I'm available, so if you just want
For
to.
more homework?
No, I'm not,
I think.
but.
You just want to, if you want me to come down and say, you know, you've got 3 or 4 of them, and, or you want to email them to me, and I can kind of clean them up and send them off to the rest of the board just to see what they think, and we'll go from there. But getting to some point where we can all agree what's best for the town and best for the taxpayers.
So we could probably narrow it down to the tasks that we'd like to see, you know, is 3 inches of grass too much, or is 2 feet too much? I mean, that's
Like
where
2
it starts.
feet is too much, but, you know.
Or do we not even want to get involved with grass? So those are the questions out there, is how involved do you want this ordinance
I
to
think you're
be?
looking more for a descriptive ordinance that looks at a body of regulation, though, aren't you?
Well, I'm looking at a house, I've got a property owner here and a property owner here, and they're both taking care of their own. And I look at this lighted piece in the middle, that the gutters are falling down, that, you know, the trees are overgrown, the fence is broken down, probably a pool has been broken down because of a fence from somewhere. That's the kind of thing, you know, that I'm looking at, because that's what the taxpayers are complaining about. They're complaining that, you know, the guy next door has got a piece of poo, and, you know, how can I get it cleaned up so that my property value will.
We also do have those properties that I have gone out to, and there are elderly people, there are certainly financial or medical constraints.
Yep.
And so we really have to be sensitive to those issues in the community as well, because these were people short of those particular
Being able
issues.
to afford to do or
They
able
would-
to do.
Exactly, they would take care of their property, they
If they
just
could.
at a place in their life where
Yep.
they can't, it's not possible.
And some sample ordinances had already addressed that, so I think we could talk amongst ourselves at a later time.
Okay, you're hitting on a very interesting subject. We need to design this to be fair,
Right.
because you got, like Dale says, neighbor A, neighbor C, and neighbor B. Neighbor B maintains it to a standard that maybe in a different section of town is perfectly acceptable, and yet neighbor A and C, if it isn't a putting green on a golf course, and every leaf on the bush isn't manicured, and if the tree isn't trimmed exactly perfect, and the driveway isn't sealed once a week, it's not acceptable. And this does not make a blight out of the person in the center. We need to establish a norm to go by. Because you know there's people out there that, if they get out there with a micrometer and check their lawn. And,
That's
you know,
what I want to
we
avoid.
can't cater
No.
to them. I mean, if you want to do it, I'm glad, it looks beautiful. I don't have the time myself.
And they don't have the time.
Jason?
So, one of the things that, well, during the day I work for the Department of Agriculture, and one of the things that the department tries to do is to educate people before and while we regulate them. So, while you're working on whatever your tweaks you're going to suggest to the ordinance, I don't see any prohibition at all about approaching those people who we know to be somewhat out of bounds and explaining to them, you know, how they can be more in compliance with even what the existing code is. And that also takes the heavy hand of government out of the picture, so that we're not just whacking people for stepping across the line, we're helping them find their way back. That's what the goal should be, is you don't want to those people who are, you know, poor or elderly or in some way unable, you don't want to just whack them for the sake of whacking them. You want to help them get back to within the perimeters. That's what the goal should be.
And it's just like, if there is a fine, the idea is not to actually utilize that fine. You want compliance.
Yeah, compliance is the
We don't
goal.
want to give the fine.
Penalization is not the goal.
No. Compliance is always the goal. And that, you got to remember that in the back of our minds. We just want compliance. We're not trying to
I think we've made wonderful progress over the years. I know at one point in time, I had 7 single-family homes on Depot Street that had gone into foreclosure and had been abandoned. I've still got a couple left up there that we're working on right now, but out of the 7, we got 5 that have been redone, resold. People are living back in them again. They're actual viable properties for the community. And that's really what we want. We want a viable property that's vibrant and that contributes.
And then we have people that contribute to the community, so it's a win-win.
Exactly.
Okay, are we truly discussing this, or any?
When they get something together, I would be more than willing to be part of a subcommittee to go sit down at their offices and go through things, and we'll bring something back to the board December-ish, and if not, January-ish, because there will be a change of board by December.
Plus, we don't have nearly as many complaints when there's snow on the road.
There you go. I just wanted to give Lori enough time and Rand enough time to
You
go
need
through
to
it.
do the work, and then you gotta realize if you go much beyond December, now next thing you're gonna have is you're gonna be right back into the budget cycle.
But they need time, because this ordinance is 2008. They need to look at what's
Definitely
local
needs
and,
updating, and
oh, yeah.
maybe a little less wordy if you can do it, and still.
Well, Connecticut state statutes have sure changed since
Yeah.
2008, so.
There's one heck of a lot of
7, whatever it
information
is.
there that I don't know if you really need quite that much to
I
be able
think
to
you can
get the
make it
finished
simple.
product.
Can we make it simpler? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
KISS, keep it simple.
Yeah.
Because you're not, well, you're not,
Yeah.
so I can't say it.
Okay.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Now, I entertain a motion to take out of order 11D. For a second?
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. So, Jason, let me just start by saying you asked to have this on the agenda.
I did.
And I received today, I guess, your, something that the lawyer wrote, Mike Andriana, and that's, I guess, what you want to address?
So you should have received Friday or Saturday, essentially the same copy, but it just came from me instead of from Mike.
Yeah, okay.
Mike did resend it this morning, but just by way of introduction.
Well, I just want to say, that, just excuse me for interrupting, but I want to say after you do that, I too thought about the casino because I didn't know what you had on the agenda. So I'd like to talk after your talk through. Sure. That's a different thing completely. So go ahead.
Sure.
Yeah.
So one of the things I think we're all particularly proud of in this current term is how well this board worked together when we were going through the process to attract the MMCT folks to town. And I think we all uniformly saw the benefits that may have to the community. It is a huge opportunity to show the entire state and the entire region that East Windsor is open for business. But anytime that there is opportunity, there are challenges that come with that. And so what we do next, now that we have earned their partnership, I suppose, what we do next and how we set up our own house is going to be important for the type of hosts that we are to MMCT and how we preserve the quality of life that our constituents have every right to expect us to try and preserve. So what we do next is going to be very important. And so that's why I put together some thoughts on a page. I think that we all recognize that when there's a development of this scale, there are going to be some challenges and some strains that are put on local services. And one of the things that I thought was important for us to do was to figure out how we were going to address some of those strains and challenges. My objective was not and is not to solve those strains and objectives right now today or with this ordinance. I have no interest at all in fashioning out X amount of funding for this project or this department. That is not what the objective is. The objective of this is to figure out how we're going to address those issues as they come up. The timeliness of this is important because if you recall in the development agreement, it says that within 15 months of the anticipated CO date, will receive a one-time lump sum payment of $3 million, and then $3 million thereafter from within 30 days of them actually getting their CO. Every indication has been that their anticipated opening date, their target opening date is December of 2018. Just flipping a calendar back 15 months puts that in September. Now, I think personally that they still have a little ways to go in order to meet that December 2018 date, but nonetheless, it illustrates the need for us to be ready to start preparing to be the host of this type of a facility. So with that in mind, I put together, with the help of several others, and I want to take a minute to thank them. But Selectman Pippin was instrumental in this. Geraldine Corso from the Board of Finance, George Mickna from the Board of Education, Chief DeMarco, Deputy Chief Hart, Matt Carl from the Police Department, Joe Sauerhofer from CIP, and Josh Foxlad and Mike Andriana from Pullman and Conley. What I want to do is, and I have copies up here if anybody wants a copy of them, but I just wanted to take a minute to kind of walk through what the proposal does, and then I'm going to move it. But the purpose is to commit the $3 million annual impact payment into a fund that will be used to mitigate the effects of hosting the casino. And that language is taken almost exactly out of the development agreement that we signed into in February. It sets up a non-lapsing revolving fund outside of the general fund, very similar to how the open space fund is set up. It's a fund where monies come in from a dedicated source for a dedicated purpose. And if you think about the $8.5 or $9 million that the town stands to gain on an annual basis from hosting the casino, $3 million of that is specifically outlined in the development agreement for mitigation purposes. The other $5.5 or $6 million is tax revenue and a whole separate conversation. That isn't what this addresses in the least. This only addresses the $3 million that is intended by MMCT to be given to the town to mitigate the impact on local services that we may face. So that's the purpose of setting up a non-lapsing revolving fund outside of the general fund. It requires that all of the mitigation money be put into this mitigation fund. The $6 million in taxes goes to the general fund, goes through the regular budgetary process. It goes through the Board of Selectmen, the Board of Finance, the public hearings, the referendum process, straight through the way it would normally do that. It also creates an administrative procedure by which the mitigation fund would be managed, and it's intentionally left unresolved in this to allow the town meeting to decide which way they would prefer that fund to be managed. They're the legislative body of the town. This is a substantial decision. So should the town meeting decide that they want to make that decision, there are three options that are included. One is that the town would engage a contracted person or firm who is separate and removed from town government to manage the mitigation fund. Another idea that's included in there is that a town employee, such as the town treasurer, has somebody with the necessary expertise to make those determinations, could be named as the project manager. And the third option is that a committee of 3 qualified officials or employees with specific requisite experience in financial management, in large project management, and so on, be impaneled to kind of make that determination. So you have a contracted person or firm, a town employee, or a committee of 3 qualified officials or employees. It restricts spending out of the mitigation fund only to be administered on the funding, only to be used for administration of the funding or on public services directly impacted by the casino. So to the extent that there's any administrative overhead, we would be able to tap some of this so it doesn't come out of taxpayers' money. It comes out of the casino mitigation money to pay for the administrative costs associated with actually administering the mitigation projects. It develops a budgetary process by which departments can request and be approved for the funding if they're able to demonstrate that they have a specific impact associated with hosting the casino that they would not otherwise have had. They have an opportunity to make that case so that the impact of that is not borne by taxpayers, but rather borne by, again, MMCT. It limits expenditures out of the fund to three main categories, and this is a reiteration, but to public safety, to public services, and to education. And it invites those departments, and what that basically limits is any town department or agency that feels as though they can demonstrate an impact has an opportunity to tap the toe, if you will. It allows for surplus funding in the mitigation fund to roll from one year into another and be used for capital projects associated with hosting the casino. So for example, if there's a particular neighborhood that becomes a cut-through to get to and from, and it's a town road and the road is wearing down at a quicker pace than it would in a normal circumstance, then we could use some of the surplus capital for road maintenance in that particular case. Or if there were renovations that needed to be made to town buildings to accommodate staff, we could then make those accommodations out of the rollover capital funding. And lastly, and probably not least, is that it provides for oversight by the auditor of this fund if the Board of if the Board of Finance so deems appropriate. So that's, this has been a project for certain, but that's what this ordinance sets out to do, and I would move that be forwarded to town meeting.
Second it.
You second it, and is there any sense in discussing it, or are you going to just vote?
I'd love to hear the feedback.
Now it's discussion. Right?
This is a big deal. This is not
a big
serious.
deal, and I can't believe that we're going to vote on this tonight. I cannot believe it.
It was provided to you 4 days ago. The same day that our packet went out.
I cannot believe this. I would like to make my presentation now.
Well, first of all, is there a discussion on this presentation?
Yes,
he
he said that this wasn't going to be a final thing. This was going to be a beginning. This tonight is the first time we have started as a group discussing the casino and how we're going to get from. And this is what I was going to say. Right tonight, this is what we got right here. We got the Showcase Cinema right here. And in maybe 2-3 months, this is what we're going to have, in a sense, we're going to have an empty lot there. And then we're going to, and this is a rendition, so because we have some control over how it looks. Some people say it looks like McDonald's. But we're going to get here. And the question is, how do we get from here to here? And that's what we talked about maybe for 10 minutes. And now you want to vote on how we're going to get from here to here.
Well, that doesn't.
Okay.
Isn't that MMCT's issue?
Not at all. This is our town. This is East Windsor, and we have to figure out how to integrate this into East Windsor. And I've given it some thought, but it needs a lot more thought. And that's very good that you got all these people together.
I did not get these people here.
Okay. Well, I'm glad all these people got together to give you insight into how to get from here to here. But that's exactly what we have to do, we being the whole town. And all the departments, because all the departments in this town, they're professional people, and they know what it takes to run a town, what it takes to integrate something into a town. So we really need a meeting with all our departments here. And sitting around the table, we can have an open discussion. There's nothing to hide here. We just want to get the job done right. And to get it done in 15 minutes, or Bob, you had 4 days to read just and think about it. Well, I didn't have any time to discuss it. This is ridiculous. But let me just say what I'm going to say, and we need a lot of work to do. Okay. I started to think about how do you get from here to here? And what I concluded is that really what we're talking about is people. And what this place is is a place where people gather. And as you might notice, here is a place where people gather too. But this is a little bit different. It's more like a baseball stadium or maybe the Four-Town Fair. They go there for entertainment. And I think to understand what we're dealing with, and probably the police department will help you with this, and human services will help you with this, planning and zoning will help you with this. You have to break down the people. And if you take a look at the people in here, one big group of people that's going to go to that casino is the patrons. So we have to understand about those patrons. We have to know how many a day go there. And what we're trying to do, this right here is opening day. So we go up, we cut the ribbon, and it's the grand opening, but we have to get there. So to get there and make it integrated into the town of East Windsor so it's comfortable, we have to know how many people a day are coming. We have to know their arrival patterns. We need to know their traffic. Where do they come from? Where do they go? Planning and zoning will be involved in this. The state traffic will be involved in this. Police department. One example of large numbers of people coming and going we already are familiar with in the town of East Windsor is Walmart. There's roads around here. These are all state roads. And they're all going to probably be changed to some degree to handle the traffic flow. Then we're talking about the patrons. What we need to know is what routes do they take, as we said. How do they get there? How do they leave there? We have to know their behavior when they're coming and going. Often people say they just come to the casino and leave and don't do anything. Well, maybe, what do you think, Jason?
I think that so far you're not saying anything that's in conflict with what I put forward.
Right.
I'm just saying, what I'm saying is we kind of need a little more, we got to know what we're doing before we vote on something like this.
So what's your objection to what I put on the table?
Okay, I'm going to continue talking because I'm not through. We have to know how it interacts with our neighborhood. And we have to know what problems to anticipate with these patrons. Another thing we have to do is understand the workers, because they're another group of people that are in here. And the workers are different from the patron. They're going to need housing, and when you think about housing, you have multiple families, the density of the housing, the dwelling units, the size, and then I learned about air, bed and breakfast, so that's a new type of housing. You know about that. Interesting, there's such thing as hot bunking, which probably is also called hot racking, because that came from a submarine. When there's not enough room, you can't have your own room in a submarine, so they have bunks, and they have 3 shifts, and a person will get off one shift, and another person will get up and sleep in a hot bunk. Well, they could do that here in town, but it would be... so all that, you have human services, you got planning and zoning, you got many, you want to know how many full-time and part-time workers, you got to know their shifts. And then in this casino too, you're going to get management, you're going to get communications, you're going to get security. We have to design a way to integrate with them, to communicate with them. Then another group of people that are going to attend this casino would be the suppliers, the food, the beverage, the money. And then the community is going to grow too. And we're going to have kind of rapid change, unprecedented change with new businesses, hotels, pawn shops, check cashing. We don't really want pawn shops and check cashing, so there's got to be a lot of work done for the regulations and zoning. Businesses are going to upgrade and expand. Again, planning and zoning, assessors, building. So, and this is what I concluded. And again, I thought about this today. So, the plan for this whole casino in a day is silly. And to codify something here and send it to town ordinance, I think is far too premature. At least we can discuss ideas, we can listen to public input, and figure out where we can go. We don't have to do this today at all. You said December 2018, and I think we all agree that that's a little far-fetched. I think it's going to take them 18 months at least to build that. And they haven't begun to tear it down. It's going to take a couple of months to tear it down. So in mid-1919, or not 19, 2019 is probably a better date. So we got time to do it. We don't have to do it today. That's ridiculous. So anyway, this is what I think. I think to integrate the casino successfully into East Windsor, it's going to take a commitment on our part. And like I said, all the town professional departments should get together and get involved. And I think we need their input before we send it to a town meeting of how we're going to manage this fund. I think we need a timeline. We need, in a sense, someone to manage this. And so we do need a project manager, but it isn't just to manage the funds. We have to understand what we're doing. And we probably should have consultants to help us. We should go to other towns like that have casinos, like the police department did, and get some input from from the town's perspective, not just the police perspective. We probably, planning and zoning should have a consultant, the building people should have a consultant, and the Board of Selectmen should have a consultant to really, because I think we have to get involved, and we have to understand, we have to monitor this thing. So that's what I thought, and I was just really surprised. And getting back to this thing that you really want, I know when you came here with the Hawks Lad, we didn't get that I didn't get it in advance, and yet Dale and Jason and Dick already had it decided. So I hope this is...
I sent this to all 5 selectmen at the same time on Friday.
Well, that's good.
Saturday morning.
Saturday morning.
There you
9
go.
o'clock.
Well, there you go.
But I check my email every day with...
Well, you're a wonderful person.
No, I'm dedicated.
Dedicated.
All
right.
You are 100% right, but you're missing the point.
Okay.
The point is, we need a mechanism for funding
money.
these expenses for the casino. We can't just put $3 million into a general fund or stick it in the vault over there without procedures in place to disperse the money where they're needed. I mean, there's going to be impacts. Planning, like you said, may need a consultant. Inland wetlands, I would almost guarantee it. The fire, building, and police, absolutely. The police department is going to have probably, I don't know, I'm going to say roughly a year to get these officers in place that we're going to need. You just can't go off the street and hire officers and, okay, here's your badge and your gun, and go out there and shoot people. They've all got to go through training. This training is hard to come by. It's long and arduous, and I can see at least one gentleman that's been through it in the audience. How do we fund this? And fortunately, when we did this agreement, we did provide for the fire district. They have their own mechanisms to collect their funding through this, which is separate from the town. But what this is a proposed ordinance to spell out where this money needs to go, how to do it. Goes to the Board of Finance too. They're not going to throw the money away. Not our Board of Finance. I mean, we've got to get started on this thing, because you know what? One day that check's going to be in the mail, and if we don't have anything, we're going to be, oh, smelly stuff. Now what do we do? What you're saying is going to follow up afterwards. We need to have the funding set up first.
So what this is, to put it in a pretty basic term. This is a lockbox, where we're taking the mitigation funding, parking it for mitigation purposes. The tax funding is through the general fund, same as everything else, but we need to make a commitment that the mitigation funding will be used for mitigation. That's it. So, you know, I don't see any conflict at all, Bob, with the things that you have talked about needing to do. That's all part of the planning phase. You go right ahead and plan. That's fine. What this is doing is making sure that the funding is available for two reasons. The funding is available to mitigate the impact that we may see, and also to make sure that we can, if for whatever reason the casino were to leave, we can scale back the spending in a way that doesn't cause problems within the general fund budget. Or without causing even more of a whack to people's tax bill. This is a way to protect the taxpayers while providing the services that we need to provide for. And, you know, you guys are welcome to vote against this if you want, but you should have you should have an answer for people when they ask you what your plan is instead.
Yeah, well, I would say too that this is not bad, this plan. Two things I would say. One is that this plan talks about annual impact funds.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Annual impact funds.
Yep.
And the development agreement talks about annual impact funds.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's in
It says,
section 1A.
It's right there.
Yeah, it says, first payment made 15 days after casino opens, but there's another one called single upfront payment.
Yep.
Yep. And that's not annual impact funds.
So you want me to amend it to include that?
It's a prepay on it, really.
No, I want you to consider that why we made it different. Why are annual impact funds different than single upfront payment? And all this stuff I talk about here, Jason, getting from here, which we are now, to here, that's where upfront funds, annual funds are money that the schools might need, that human resources might need, but the annual upfront payment gets us from that showcase up to the casino. And we need those funds. And not only, and those funds are going to come 15 months from opening. So we not only need those funds 15 months from opening, we need them now. Lori needs them now. And what Rand has got to do is to get this casino built in 18 months, which I think is very ambitious, but we're going to help MMCT do everything they can. To do that, MMCT is going to be probably building 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And Rand can't be there 7 days a week, 24 hours a day. So we got to fund Rand's building.
So that is a perfect example of something that would be able to be funded out of this mitigation lockbox. That is a perfect example.
Okay.
So is Lori's needs, actually.
Okay, and it's just the timing, Jason. When are you, out of your lockbox, going to be able to give Rand, let's say, $100,000 to put a trailer down in...
$100,000?
I'm everything. Just Rand, I don't know if it's 100,000. Rand, what do you need to put a trailer down there and put a consultant down there and start have some probably a laptop and some software to keep track of the building of the casino?
I'm going to put together an entire layout for this Board of Selectmen with the associated costs, with the timelines. I think an 18-month construction schedule based on the scope of this is absolutely too aggressive. There's too many variables. I think we're looking probably closer at a 30-month time frame from the time the applicants come into the office and actually apply for a demolition permit to the day that that certificate of occupancy is issued. I think that 30 months, 2.5 years is a much more realistic, based on the challenges of that site and everything that's gonna be associated with it.
Don't have to do the trailer.
Yeah.
Well, okay, tell them how you're gonna make,
That's
how
not
you're gonna
fine.
have a building inspector there, not holding up, they can't, if they, as you build a building, there's certain points when you have to stop and have a building inspector inspect before you can continue.
In that instance, we would need a trailer and, you know, some durational building inspection help, because why?
Because we don't wanna hold them up.
Right, it's a direct cost associated with the casino.
All right, now,
Right out of this fund.
where are you gonna get the money from?
Right out of here.
But out of that $3
Yeah,
million.
That's why we're trying to get
Okay,
this in
now,
place.
all right, when are you gonna get that $3 million? 15 months before it opens.
Yep.
Rand's gotta start building it, start there, examining the building when they start putting the shovel in the ground, when they start digging, when they start pouring the foundation. You're not gonna have the money.
You forgot one thing, Bob. There's got to be a building permit taken out before that
And that's
happens.
exactly where I was
And there's
going.
going to be some funding available for Mr. Stanley, but
Exactly.
probably not enough.
And no, there will be.
We don't know that.
I do.
There's one other factor that's gonna come into play, and we already have the funding mechanism in place through added appropriations, approval from the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance, and that is the building permit fees that are associated with that application are paid the moment that application comes through the
Right.
building department
You are
door.
correct.
That's, just a rough estimate is going to be between 2.3 and $2.9 million for that and that alone. So we don't necessarily need to have the upfront money to do this, but what we need is the commitment from the Board of Selectmen and the Board of Finance to examine the proposals put forward, to come to an agreement, and to move forward with that expenditure.
And that's exactly exactly right.
Still have a conflict with what I'm saying.
Well,
not at all.
Not at all. All I'm saying is, this, what you have written down here is not, is far from a solution. It's a beginning.
Yes.
But one little thing we have to write into this thing is you got to include the upfront payment, and also you have to include the permitting fees that will, you have to include the permitting fees.
You can't. That goes into the general.
No, I know you
Because they're
can't.
not
You can't
mitigating.
touch
Okay,
that. Let me finish. The permitting fees are what's going to fund RAND initially. And those permitting fees will have to come into the general fund, and so you're going to have, when that permit's taken out, you're going to have two, the permits, you're going to have that blank thing over there. You're going to have, well, don't interrupt, let me finish, and you can say all you want.
My point.
What I'm saying is that $2 million is going to come in maybe in December. And then it's going in the general fund. And you're not going to have any money in this fund you've created, your casino fund. And so what you got to do is you got to, we as a board have to say that we want a supplemental appropriation from the fund balance of so much money to put into this casino fund, and then it has to be approved by the Board of Finance and go into the casino fund, and then you can fund RAND. But
May I correct you, Doug?
sure you can.
So this is not restrictive. What this isn't to say that the only money that can be spent on whatever we need to do is the $3 million mitigation fund. That is not what this says, but it says that the $3 million mitigation funding will only be spent on mitigation of hosting a casino. In Rand's case, where he will have a need for additional upfront work and there's going to be building permit fees that come with that, absolutely that's going to be available. But we're not going to start spending money that is earmarked to make sure that we're doing what we can to preserve our quality of life here in town is used for something other than mitigating and protecting that quality of life.
Well, the upfront money is not necessarily used for mitigating. It's used for also creating a safe environment. Maybe that's mitigating, but that's okay if you want to call that mitigating. I think that this is a good start. What you have here is a good start. It's not the end. I don't know why why we can't rewrite this thing a little bit so it's clearer.
So I'm happy to amend the ordinance in section 3 to say that the one-time upfront payment And each year, not more than 30 calendar days after receipt of the impact mitigation money from MMCT or any subsequent corporate entity with a controlling interest in any casino gaming facility in the town of East Windsor, the town shall deposit 100% of such impact mitigation funding into the mitigation fund. And that encapsulates exactly your point, which is a good one.
I'll second that.
Okay, now,
Yep, but you made a motion.
We're discussing the amendment to the.
Now we're
to
discussing
motion,
the
not the
amendment.
underlying motion.
okay, if you want to, I don't mind putting that in as an amendment. So, we want to discuss it, go ahead.
On the amendment.
Well, I don't want to talk about just the amendment, I want to talk about this whole
All
thing.
right, well, then we'll do the amendment, and then we haven't passed the initial motion.
You guys can vote to keep me quiet again if you want, I suppose, right?
No, Steve, we're discussing the amendment, that's all. Now.
So,
and then we'll go back.
read your amendment again.
So in section 3, inserted into the beginning of the paragraph, the one-time upfront payment and each year, not more than 30 calendar days after receipt of impact mitigation money, and so on to the end. So it adds the one-time upfront payment and at the beginning.
Good catch.
That was a good catch. Yep. That was a good catch.
Good catch.
I don't mind that amendment, so I would support that. So, okay, all those in favor?
Steve, you want to talk on that at first?
No, I want to talk about what you guys
Okay.
are doing here.
All right. And then I'll accept the amendment. So, all those in favor of the amendment?
Aye.
Okay. But just because we put an amendment in, that doesn't mean that I approve of this at all.
Right, there's another
tonight.
vote for that.
Yep.
Yes. One thing I want to talk about in this is the project manager. It says on 7. The project manager determines is needed, well, I'll read the whole, the mitigation fund annual expenses shall be limited to public safety, public service, and education expenses that the project manager determines is needed to cover costs resulting from the casino's impact on the towns and schools. So it looks like the project manager, this one person, is going to make a decision on where the money goes.
Sure. Mac, on that point, if you turn to section 4, which precedes it, the project manager is defined as one of those 3 options which would be decided on by the town meeting.
That's true.
Yep.
But I'm not tonight willing to limit the town to 3 options.
Where's the limitation?
This ordinance says they got a choice of they can have one person or firm from external. So that's one choice they get.
Well, if the town meeting doesn't want one of those 3 choices, they can vote it down or amend it. They're the legislative body.
And I would like to present them something that we had more than an hour to think about. This is ridiculous. We're building a casino, and you're not giving us any time to think about it. Dick, when you come to me and say, Bob, I haven't had time to read this, I'm going to laugh at you. Because here you're building a casino with an...
I read it Saturday morning when I got it.
Boy, you guys are better than me. I feel that this is just being rammed down our throat, and we haven't even listened to the public. I can't believe this.
I think we need to.
Well, let's listen to the public.
Well, then let's yeah, I'd like to, I said that I would vote down this thing, then we'll listen to the public, and then if you really feel that you got this correct, because I will want to hear what they have to say. I don't want to vote on this thing without even knowing what they have to say.
Maybe we can invite them into discussion for comments. Is that
Well, I think Steve's pretty patiently waiting.
Steve?
Okay, let's Steve, go ahead.
Well, I'm against everything you're doing here, naturally.
As long as you have an alternative.
Right this minute, I don't. okay? But you're sitting there with all your big ideas. I see all the special interest people out here tonight. That's why it's so full tonight, because everybody knew you were gonna talk about it, Jason. So that's why they're here, okay? The schools wanna get their hand into that pot. The police department wants to get their hands into that pot, when we don't even know if we need to do this, okay? We don't know if we're gonna have a problem. We don't know. And all your words tonight was, I think your words were, maybe, maybe. You used a lot, I think you used a lot of maybes. What was the word you used? It didn't mean a positive thing. You said maybe, I think, or something like that, I heard you say. So you want to get, from what I understand, 12 officers, okay, I guess that's the number that's floating around. Get them all trained, get them ready to go, and have them standing out on Route 140 waiting for the door to open up, okay? Now listen to me. What have I told you before? What if we get these people, they're union people, and we don't have any issues? They're more at a local business in town than they will be there. Okay? They will. Still, there'll be more at the other business than there will be at the casino. And you're talking about, what if they go out of business? Well, I don't ever see that happening. But say if they did, how are you going to get rid of the 12 officers? Huh? How are you going to get rid of them? You'll never get rid of them.
By seniority.
How are you going to get rid of them? You've been fighting to get rid of these 12 people, and it'll put this town in a position that will never be able to recover. The schools, why do the schools need the money? I don't get that point. We're talking about housing. What do you think? Everybody that's going to work at that casino is going to run to this town and buy a house and build a house so they can work in that casino? No way. All right? So I don't understand what is the school system needs. I don't get it. I've heard something talk of an Asian program. Well, I guess all the Asians are going to move to town and their kids won't speak English, so we need an Asian program that we don't even know that we're going to need anything. We don't know if we need the police department, okay? They're going to tax the hell out of this place, the fire district. They certainly don't need any money either, because they're going to build a Taj Mahal with the way they're taxing the citizens and everything. I like the smirk on your face, Jason. All right, but I'll tell you what, if this has to go to a public hearing, buddy, I hope it does, for it to get voted on, for this to go through, because I'll make damn sure there's enough people here to vote that down. You people are speculating on stuff you have no idea if it's even going to happen. That money belongs to the taxpayers of East Windsor. That's where it belongs. And tax breaks for the people of East Windsor. Okay, this is a once-in-a-lifetime deal here, and we can treat the people in town right. But it seems to me, you're a Democrat, you're a union, and you want to hand it out to all the union people you can seem to hand it out to. And that's my statement.
Okay, Jason.
So it's pretty clear Steve has not read this, because there is not one single line that talks about appropriating any amount of money to any department or group at all. What this does, once again, is it takes funding that is intended to mitigate the impact of hosting a casino and using that money to pay to mitigate the impact of having a casino. That's it. There is no mention at all about any staffing levels, about any particular department getting or not getting. It's not in there. You can, if you take the time to read the 2 pages, you will not find that, any of that in this document. And that's intentional. And I said that at the very outset. That is intentional. Because I have no interest in carving up a piece of the pie and awarding it to some and not awarding it to others. There's frankly, that's not what we ought to be doing. And, you know, Bob, I can understand and appreciate your frustration about not having read your email until this morning, but the fact of the matter is we signed the mitigation, or the development agreement with MMCT in February. So if you guys haven't been thinking about this, why haven't you? And if you don't
Excuse me.
have an alternative,
Excuse me.
Let him speak. Jason's talking.
I
With the
know,
same
but
courtesy,
you
let
said
him
you
speak.
guys, who are you referring to with you guys?
I'm sorry. If there's a selectman who hasn't thought about how we're going to be mitigating the impact of hosting the casino, I really don't know what you've been doing for 7 months.
I've
because
been
this is-
thinking about that every day.
So, listen, man, I'm not married to this. This is the best that I could put together with reaching out to people whose opinions I solicited. If you have a better idea, let's hear it.
I don't like the idea you're gonna wanna put it in the lockbox for that use. We didn't promise anybody in this town any monies,
Neither does this.
okay? We
Okay,
didn't
hey,
promise
now, all
anybody
right.
anything.
You got it, this is a back and forth, so let's recognize each other. Okay? Deal.
You have $3 million for mitigation. That's it. It goes into a lockbox. Whatever needs to be paid due to the casino coming to town, that's where the money's gonna come from. Not the general fund, not the local taxpayer. It comes from MMCT, who is putting that money there for a reason. Now, $5.5 million goes into the general account. That's not enough?
Okay, now, that's a question. I would like to say
What's wrong with
something.
questions?
Huh?
We can't ask questions at one
You
minute?
can ask questions, but
Well,
you were soliciting an answer from
I was
Steve,
speaking-
and
I was
Steve,
speaking, I'm sorry, I was speaking in general, I didn't mean to say.
Smaller than me.
okay. My major objective, and this is good, Jason, let me say this is great. This is, what you put together is really great. This is a step in the right direction. This shouldn't be the end. This isn't everything.
This is not the end.
This has to change. That's what I'm saying. This isn't ready to go to a town meeting yet. That's all I'm saying.
So point out some of the flaws.
I will. But I don't want to correct the flaws tonight. I want to listen to people. I want to think about it. I want to present a good work, something that we all agree on, not something that's been jammed down our throat because 3 people on this board have been worked together all the time to jam things down our throat. One thing is we don't have a treasurer right now. We don't have a treasurer.
We certainly do. She may be acting, but we definitely have somebody as the treasurer.
Jason?
So, as I have a copy of the development agreement here, and I think you do as well, because you quoted it at one point.
So I have the summary, but I can get the whole one out too.
So if you look at, in section 6, it says that the town agrees at its cost and expense to provide municipal services. That is what we agreed to in the contract.
Okay.
What I'm doing is suggesting that we actually establish a lockbox to provide for municipal services.
And I don't have a problem with that.
Okay.
Establish a lockbox, that's fine. I don't have a problem.
So actually, that may be an idea. You want to go, there's 9 points. You want to go point by point and find out which ones you disagree with? And just so we can park the ones that we do?
Okay, sure, if you want to, we'll go slowly though.
Sure.
Go ahead, read the first one.
The purpose of this ordinance is to create a casino impact mitigation fund to guide town officials, elected and appointed, and town employees in the town's utilization of the $3 million annual impact funds received from MMCT Ventures LLC as part of the development of the town of East Windsor's casino gaming facility in order to ensure that the proceeds of the fund are used solely for public safety, public service, and/or education expenditures that are a result of the town hosting a casino are spent for those purposes.
All right. That paragraph I'd like to relate quite extensively, mainly because this doesn't take into account the upfront payment, and it doesn't, and this whole thing was designed to talk about annual impact funds and mitigation payments. When the upfront fund was used to develop the casino and plans for the casino, that's tangentially mitigating, but really it's integrating it into the town of East Windsor. So that's a misleading because this whole I agree with the lockbox. A lockbox is a good idea.
Okay, so let's stay at number one, though. That's not number one.
Oh my God. You want to, we'll be here till midnight. No, maybe not midnight, but if we have to rewrite everything.
I don't believe we need to rewrite.
All right, let's do it. The purpose of this ordinance is to create, let's not call it a casino impact fund, or we could say casino impact fund. How about casino development?
Bob, that's taken word for word out of the development agreement. It's matching the contract with the ordinance.
Okay, what the MMCT said to us, we don't care what you do with the money. We just want to know what money you want. And that's what this impact agreement, or that development agreement was for. It was really to determine how much money they were going to give us. And they gave us the upfront payment for a reason. And the reason was we needed the upfront payment to really be involved in getting from where we are, which is nowhere, to where we want to be when the ribbon is cut. And then the impact payments come in. And why the police department needs money up front is because it takes time to hire police officers and train police officers, so they can't wait for the ribbon cutting. Other things can wait for the ribbon cutting. The school system, they will be impacted when the ribbon's cut, but that can be mitigated to some degree. And as students come in, and that's true. The fire departments, we have to figure out about that, or somebody has to figure out about that. So I think it's misleading to call this casino impact mitigation fund. You could call it a casino fund. That would be okay.
It's taken verbatim out of the development agreement. I mean, I don't care what you call it, but it needs to be consistent.
All right, then you wanted to change it. I'd be happy to call it a casino fund. Casino fund. The purpose of this ordinance is to create...
No. I'm keeping that as the mitigation fund in the proposal.
If it's in the contract that way, keep the wording the same.
The agreement. Okay, so you... All right.
Really, I mean, you'll have nothing but problems later on.
I don't want there to be any ambiguity at all about the restrictions placed on this fund.
I really think...
I don't want there to be either. I want to use this thing to help develop and integrate it into the East Windsor community.
We're getting nowhere fast. I think before everybody falls asleep or leaves because they're bored, we probably ought to have a little public input, and then we can go back to this.
I think we better, let's vote on this now. If you want to put it in without public input, that's fine.
No. Put it in with public input.
But...
spoiler alert, I'm going to vote yes on this no matter when we do it, so...
Yeah, I know you are, and I know Dale is, and I know Pippin is.
Damn right.
So, let's
because if we don't get it in place, we're going to be jerking around, and we're going to end up when the ship's going to leave.
All right.
Talk it to death.
Well...
Talk's cheap.
All right.
I think that we should get some comments from the public.
Well, that's good.
Make a motion.
I make a motion to hear comments from the public.
I think we have a motion on the floor. You can't make another motion. But,
You can allow the public to speak.
okay, we're going to recognize people. We're not going to interrupt people. One major problem I have with this, you said you wanted to go through this, and this isn't the problem I had. You said you wanted to go through it paragraph by paragraph, and I said I'm for a lockbox. I have no problem with a lockbox. But then when I started to try to change the wording so I would be comfortable with it, you said no. So okay. But the major problem I have, and that's what I started to bring up before you said you wanted to go through it word by word, is that we don't have a treasurer. So that kind of eliminates B.
That's an example. EG means example given.
Okay.
Right.
It doesn't have to be the treasurer. It could be, it doesn't have to be any particular person. It's just to say any town employee with requisite experience and
so that could be me.
Could be you.
it could be if that's
Could be
what
a town manager too.
It could be if that's what the board or the...
And that, yeah.
Those three options were left in there, because what might be perfectly good, absolutely perfect this year, in 2 years down the road might be terrible. And if we had a town manager, or if some other person, a reason, this gives you the flexibility and the option to pick which mechanism is gonna work best for the town to manage this thing. This is not gonna be a one-year flash in the pan, this is gonna be ongoing.
I would like to put town manager in there.
We don't have
We
a
don't
town.
have one.
Okay.
Town
Then I guess
employee
that's,
is a town manager.
well, okay.
So ignore the part that's in parentheses and just say a town employee that has the necessary expertise in municipal services and project management.
Okay.
All that is giving is an example or for instance.
All right.
That's all it is.
It's not saying it's this person or nobody.
Okay, so a town employee, and that's good. That's good. I'll accept that. We don't have a town manager, a town employee, but a town treasurer, but we can do that. Okay, a contracted firm or person. Now, again, we right now have a contracted person or firm, and that's our town attorney.
And our actuary and the pension investment
Right.
people and the, I mean.
Right. And right now, our town attorney is controlled by Dale and Jason and Dick.
No.
Bob, this is
Controlled by the
not.
board.
Oh, okay,
Selectmen.
okay, controlled by the Board of Selectmen
Correct.
and on a vote of 3-2. But this firm that we hire, the same thing could happen. So this person we hire could be controlled by 3 of the
Elected
three of the elected officials, and we go back that
You're missing the point. It's still gotta go to the Board of Finance.
it's still got to go to the Board of Finance.
So, you're gonna control 6 of them too?
No, but
You're not.
who knows?
This is why the mechanism is the way it is, checks and balances.
Okay, I'm just saying I don't like I'm looking for another alternative than one person makes the decision on who, or firm that's probably controlled by one person. They probably don't have a vote, a majority vote.
So MMCT is set up as a firm, as an example. Their board has 5 members. They have 2 from Mashantucket, 2 from Mohegan, and 1 that's agreed to by the 4 other people. The firm, just for clarity, the firm that I was kind of had in mind, not as to say this is who it would be, but as the example would be somebody like a Simon Conover, who is a property management firm that has properties all over, I think all over the world. That was the vision of a separate firm. There's no,
Okay, I hear what you're saying, a separate firm. That's an option, but I'm complaining about the limit of the option you're giving to the town meeting. That can be one of the options, but I don't like only those 2 options. Like you said a minute, what I'm concerned about is this town and these departments know what they're doing, and they have very specific concerns. And people not working with this every day have to make judgments on things they really don't understand, and they're liable to misjudge things, especially with the building of that casino. And so that's one option I wouldn't like to see. I'd like to somehow include the maybe. I mean, look at the way we do with our budgets. Pretty good. I'll call on you in a minute. Selectmen, first selectman looks at all the departments, and he has a good understanding, pretty good understanding of our sheet, what the departments are doing. They interact every day. Then it goes to the Board of Selectmen, and the people come before the Board of Selectmen, and then it goes to the Board of Finance, and then it goes to the town in a referendum. That's a good way to be close to what the town needs, to have a management company come in and who's getting paid by somebody, and he knows that he's getting paid by the 3 members of the board. He's going to do what they want. So this is power and control is worrying me about A. So B looks like okay.
So just two comments about that. Well, really just one. A, B, and C are options. They're not we're not committing anything to this. We're allowing if the town meeting decides that they want to pick one, or subsequently that the Board of Selectmen wants to avail themselves of A, B, or C on a year contract, with a renewal point annually, then the next Board of Selectmen and the one after that and the one after that gets to determine which of these fits the needs of the town at that point. So you're arguing over
I'm arguing over a method of determining who's getting the funds.
So
that's what I'm arguing. Excuse me?
Yeah, you're arguing over the options that are available, not that we've selected an option, because we're not selecting an option.
I'm not saying we're selecting an option. I'm saying
so
I'm not comfortable with the methods put forward to fund the departments that need the money.
Got another idea?
Well, I'm gonna have to think about it.
Well, again, this is a mitigation fund. So that means the police department, the public safety, school board, whatever, they have to go before that firm and show how and why they need these funds to mitigate the new expenses coming into them. I like a firm because it is not political. It is not a town employee. It takes some of the minutia out of the whole experience. And so for me, and I'm not saying that that's what we have to approve, but for me, a firm seems to make the most sense because it is non-political.
So we're still debating.
Okay.
the options
Jason,
that are-
I think you want the floor.
Yes. So what is not going to be beneficial to us tonight is to debate which of the three options we want to pick. What is going to be beneficial is to provide options for either the town meeting to decide and have that debate in our legislative body, or if they opt not to do that, or at a point in time we have that discussion. But that's not what we're trying to do here.
Okay, I think I like what you just said, that if we try to determine ways to decide on how the funds will be allocated, other than in addition to these three options, that I would like to do. Yeah.
Well, it's real simple. Let's say we adapt this ordinance verbatim. We come down 6 months or a month after we enact this at a town meeting, and we got egg on our face. You know what? You can call a town meeting and you can amend that ordinance at any time with a duly called town meeting by a vote of the taxpayers, or the electors, I should say, because you don't have to be a taxpayer. It can be amended at any time by the governing body of this town, which is really not the Board of Selectmen, it's the town meeting.
Yep.
So why are we going through all this? We are trying to establish a fund to get this thing off the ground so that you don't have a line out the door with everybody with their hand out, and there's not enough money to do what has to be done. There was commitments made with this development agreement that we need to live up to.
Yep.
We need to be able to provide the funding for these, and not out of the general fund, not out of the taxpayers' proper pockets. It needs to come out of this fund that we're trying to establish. And if you jerk around long enough, the horse is going to be out of the barn before you get the door locked. You need to get this thing enacted. We probably should have done it months ago. And I still think we need to let the general public speak. I see you, Marie.
So my main problem with this thing is, and I thought we were going to discuss, of how the distribution of the funds in this lockbox are going to be distributed.
No.
No.
Absolutely not.
No.
That is not. I want to remove the political process from that discussion.
Absolutely.
Well, it looks to me like the decision on how they're going to be distributed is going to be done by a firm or a town employee or a committee of 3 town officials.
Yes.
Yeah, but it's
Or
still
employees,
gotta
not
go to the
officials
Board
or
of,
employees.
it's still gotta go to the Board of Finance, Bob. And they can tell you to pull it, you know, you're out of line.
Where does it say that?
Well, it's right in the charter.
Oh.
You gotta refer back to the charter. We've got checks and balances.
Now, okay, so you're saying that once this,
Committee, whoever it may be, it'll still have to go to the Board of Finance,
once this town employee decides where the money's gonna go,
whichever one of the 3 are.
then it's gonna go to the Board of Finance?
Absolutely.
Well, that's good.
We just can't go throwing money around. We have the checks and balances are in place to protect
Well, I think I'd
from this
like
happening.
to have that.
It's in the charter.
It's in the charter.
It's in the charter, it's already there. Board
Well,
of
it might be
Finance has
spelled
the
out in this
final-
ordinance.
Charter supersedes ordinance.
Yeah,
Statute supersedes
right,
charter.
absolutely.
Well,
It's not an issue. You got
I-
6 people watching the hen house.
I think we could take another 2 weeks to think about this, to rewrite it. And unbelievable, this is unbelievable that you guys want to let the decision and rely on the charter, so now we're going to go to,
What we want to do is let the town meeting decide this.
decide which one of 3 mechanisms are going to be used to
Leave all 3 in there.
decide on how money is going to be distributed, not only to mitigate it, but to build the freaking casino correctly. And Dale says no. No.
I say no, too.
Why is what I said incorrect?
The building part of it is permits and everything else. The mitigation is the police department, it's the school system, it's public safety, it's the roads, whatever it's gonna cost the town money, that's where the money's gonna come from, that mitigation fund. But as far as getting that casino from that point to that point, that has to do with planning and zoning, wetlands, and MMCT. Doesn't have any, you know.
All right, but now Lori thinks that once we cut the ribbons, and in fact, she knows, and Rand knows, that people already now are talking about building hotels. They're talking about when people come in, they're going to need places to live. When we cut that ribbon, planning has to be done for Warehouse Point, and that planning costs money. Can that come out of the mitigation fund?
Would it be happening absent the casino?
Because of the casino?
It should be done before the casino opens its doors.
That's not what I asked. Would that be happening if the casino weren't there?
No.
Then there you go. That has to come out of taxpayer money then.
No.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, I said that backwards.
No, it could.
If it would not be happening without the casino, then yeah, the casino money can pay for it.
Right.
If it would be happening anyway, for example, if Windsorville Road needs to be
Yeah, I understand.
repaved,
I understand what
that's
you're
taxpayer
saying.
money.
No, I'm saying that we have to really integrate, we have to figure out how this casino is going to integrate into East Windsor. That's a plan. We as the Board of Selectmen, and this is the beginning, this is the start of a plan, but we have to plan how that's going to occur. Or we can not do our due diligence and just say, oh, let's leave it up to MMCT and the planning and zoning and
So if you read number 6, it actually allows for the town departments that may be affected to make the case for why what they need funding for is associated with the
But
casino and its funding.
this number 6 says, the project manager shall prepare an annual budget.
Yep.
Yep.
I'm talking about upfront. I'm not talking about an annual budget. Expenditures currently in succeeding fiscal years on or before April 1st. I'm talking about December. That's when we need the money. In fact, we need it now.
There is no prohibition on being able to pay for those things now. You're not reading this the way it's written. You're reading what you are afraid is in it. And there's not a restriction on what you can and cannot spend now. We don't have the check yet.
We don't have the check yet, and that's what I'm saying.
We need to have the mechanism before the check, not after.
Well, I don't.
We need the procedures in place. think Ray's gonna shoot me if he doesn't get a chance to speak.
Just 1 second. So I think Bob will be all set.
Well, what do you want to do?
I would like to vote. There's no more discussion, I'd like to vote.
Anybody?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries.
Now you wanna let the public speak?
Yeah, we'll have the public speak. Marie?
Thank you, I got the floor. I got the floor.
Oh, she raised her hand. What, I beg your
Are we
pardon.
going out of order on the agenda?
She raised her hand.
We're having public input now? Before we
No,
hear from
actually,
the-
before, at the beginning of the meeting, I said to Vin that after, I said the board would discuss, that Jason would discuss it, I discuss it, the board would discuss it, and then we'd have public input on the casino.
Then we can still have our public input the
Yes.
second,
Absolutely.
after the rest of the agenda. Thank you.
Just please keep it a
Do I have
little bit
the-
brief so we can get done.
I have Marie D'Souza, 10 Rice Road, Frederick. Just real quick, Bob, on your concern about however the decision made and this project manager being responsible, whether it's 3 people or 1 person or a group of people, you still have the right under 4 to do a job description and a scope of duties and responsibilities for that group of people. So I think all of your concerns could be addressed in that mechanism there. So I
Good.
think that covers there.
Yeah.
I think the other thing that you brought up about the upfront money would require, I would believe, in my opinion, that number 1 would have to be changed, because that upfront money that you're talking about is different than the 3 million that this is referring to. So if you're going to add that to number 3 as a rewrite, and if you get the right terminology for the upfront money, you have it there, Jason, what was it called? So that would have to be incorporated somehow in the
I
first
think he
line.
did that in the amendment.
I did it
He
in
did
the
that
third
under
one.
3,
Did it in the
but he
third
didn't
one.
do that as a purpose, so I would think that would have to be included in there. And I think that would answer your
change it
question.
now.
As far as assumptions being made, I commend all those people that he mentioned, because it's a diverse group of people in
Yeah,
town.
I agree.
All boards and commissions got together, and those are all people that have been close to what's been happening, and they followed the contract that was signed and what the public was told. And I'm speaking from the public, because I don't sit on any board or commission in town, and I have no hidden agenda. I want what's right for the town, and I think this mitigation ordinance is necessary, and I think it's necessary, and I'm glad it got approved tonight, because then you can take the next step forward, spelling out what needs to be done with the right people. But I think what it does, and listening to what's here tonight, it takes away, Steve doesn't like the police department, I may not like the fire department, I may not like Jason, I may not like you. It takes all of that nonsense out of it, and it brings some professionalism that we need in this town to move forward. This is the biggest thing that this town has had an opportunity, and we're talking about growth, and already we're concerned about growth. We should be jumping up and down that we got hotels that want to come into this town. We should be jumping up and down that we got people that want to come to East Windsor. Because right now, we don't have that. We got people that are looking to get out of East Windsor. So we have an opportunity to take something and put our differences aside and move forward, and I think this is a first great step, and I commend all those people that did that, regardless of party affiliation, because I commend Jason, if he was the leader of this group, to get everybody in, townspeople, board people, the police department, the Board of Finance, Democrats, Republicans. That stuff needs to go away. We all know how you feel about Democrats, we all know how you feel about unions, but you know what? They're your constituents, and you better start
Okay,
recognizing that.
now let's make it personal.
Well, he made it personal when he stated it. We all know that. We can't make it personal. And you saying 3 selectmen versus 2 selectmen, well, shame on you. Because you should be all working together for us as taxpayers. And to make a blanket statement that the taxpayers are going to get money back, taxpayers may get money back, but that's out of that's out of the $5 million if you choose to do that. But we need to look at what we're doing. And if somebody comes through and they want a $100,000 Taj Mahal, to work 24 hours, and Rand, no disrespect to you, it's not meant that way. Maybe we can do it with a $10,000 Taj Mahal. That's all I want to make sure, that the money that we're getting is not being wasted foolishly. And I think everybody on this board doesn't want the money to be wasted foolish. So thank you very much for whoever spearheaded this and for all the people that took their volunteer time. And I repeat that, volunteer time, because it was all volunteer that did that. Thank you very much for whoever you are.
Then, Mickey Tapia, Warehouse Point Fire District. It says here, the funds to be used for public safety and public service. Can somebody tell me what the public safety groups are?
That would be Jason.
Or maybe not. Maybe,
Any one of us.
well, you guys.
Public
you guys
safety
came up
group
with
or
a
police,
plan.
fire, and ambulance, plain and simple.
So, Warehouse Point Fire
Pretty
District
much.
is included in that plan?
So.
No,
so
you
there's-
have your own plan.
No.
It's available
Why
to you
aren't we
guys.
included in that plan?
Let's not have a back and forth, be careful.
Well, because you were specifically exempted, because you have the right to make your own deal. It's up to the district commissioners to take care
How come we
of
were
what.
never, ever notified of that?
Some of the members of your commission were at all of the meetings.
Who?
I don't remember for sure exactly. But the fire district is a separate entity. We did no contracting for them whatsoever. It's spelled right out in the agreement that the fire district is the fire district and it's your deal. So your commissioners, I'm sure, are quite capable of handling the funding for your district. And that's why we stayed out of it. Your fire marshal, I'm sure, is capable of handling the fire marshal duties. Probably gonna need some help.
Is the ambulance in the same boat? Or are they gonna get funded?
My ambulance isn't part of the.
Yeah,
That could be interesting. That could be interesting.
It worked out.
You'll have the right to pull a request.
It sure could.
Okay, let me just talk about, go ahead.
May I respond?
Yeah.
So, Chairman DeCapua, the ordinance seeks to comport with the development agreement. And if you read the development agreement in section, it's on page 4, section 1C, about 80% of the way down the page, it actually specifically exempts the Warehouse Point Fire Department from being bound by this, I'm sorry, the fire district, from being bound by this, with the, and that's why the initial proposal was that there be a fixed payment to the town, and the final agreement has a fixed assessment with the understanding that you have taxing powers given to you by the legislature, so that you would be taking, and let me just explain.
I just can't understand why you want to tax the taxpayer again as a group.
Because you were.
What?
Because you were.
We were what?
When we negotiated, this was in February.
Yeah.
When this was negotiated, the district is separate and apart from the town at that point. The reason for the fixed assessment was to make sure that the grant list for the district had something to base a tax levy against for this, so you would not be left without recourse. That was an intentional negotiation point that we included.
That was
So-
nice, but we never been notified of it.
Well, I think there are some who are affiliated with the organization who were. I had personal conversations with them.
You might have a personal, but did a letter come to us?
Oh, I have no idea.
I don't have it either, because I've never seen it.
Yeah, I frankly, I don't think I would be shown one if one was shared. But there were steps that were taken to make sure that the fire service in Warehouse Point could provide the services that we all.
Did we ever ask for that?
I'm sorry?
Did we ever ask for that,
For that
our opinion
accommodation?
on that?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Were we ever asked, as a group, the fire district,
I
to
don't-
go along with that kind of a recommendation?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah.
But there is one point. During this negotiations, like Jason said, this came up and they wanted us to provide fire services in this mitigation agreement. The Board of Selectmen has no right, no legal right to negotiate anything for the Warehouse Point Fire
Well, it
District.
sounds like,
And that's why it was singled out, because you guys have the right to do what you guys need to do. And it was granted to you by the state legislature in what, 1919? Or whatever, but you are your separate government. We, as a town of East Windsor, have no right and would be absolutely remiss in negotiating an agreement for the Warehouse Point Fire District through the town.
All I'm saying is, how come this Board of Selectmen never notified the fire district in writing that they are not part of this contract? They never were thought
Oh,
to be.
I'm sure they were.
No, we never got it.
I never saw you at any of the meetings, but I know John Burnham was at some of them, but he's no longer with you.
So, Mr. DiCaprio, again, if you look at page 4, and I'm happy to share this.
I've never gotten that.
When we take a break, I'll be happy to give this,
gotta do that.
keep it actually. But there is a restriction in this exempting any special service district that were to be established in town from being able to levy any type of an assessment against the casino. And I'm reading verbatim now. And for the avoidance of doubt, excluding Warehouse Point Fire District. You're excluded from that prohibition. So there's a recognition in the contract that the district has a right to levy an assessment. That was intentional so that we could make sure that there was services provided for her, so we could make sure you could make sure there were services provided for her. But I'm happy to give this to you as soon as we take a break.
One other thing, I just want to say that your idea about this ordinance is the right place at the right time.
Thank you.
When you build a house, you build an office building, whatever, before you do anything, you gotta have plans.
Yep.
And this is the first step, and I think it should be done now, and build from there.
Thank you, I appreciate that.
Yes.
Bob Light, 80 Rye Street, East Windsor. I have a written statement that I had prepared to present to you during the public input. It's kind of appropriate. Unfortunately, it's very personal and it's very political. And we were doing so well when we got together, and there were the two sides. They didn't have anything to do with political affiliations or anything else. They were the pro-casino people that spoke at a lot of the hearings, like Marie and I, agreeing on the same thing. And then there was the anti-casino people. And it almost divided the town, except that the referendum, or the meetings and the approval by the legislature got passed. This is the beginning, again, of the best divisive, it's going to divide the town again by having this kind of a decision to be made, which is putting the cart before the horse. If it's a great idea, and it is a really great idea, I think Bob was caught a little off guard, like I was. I didn't see it till I picked it off the table here tonight. If it's such a great idea, I think one of your concerns was not what's wrong with the 3 opportunities under A, B, and C on who's going to handle this project management. There aren't enough of them. There hasn't been enough study and enough input from all the boards and commissions and taxpayers in this community. Okay? To give it an ordinance that's got to be decided. I can't. Steven Spielberg couldn't write a movie as good as this thing's been on tonight with the blue light shining. I'm embarrassed. Okay? And I'll bring it up in my personal remarks because I've already posted them on the internet on Facebook. Too bad. Bad judgment on my part. I keep telling my kids, will you stay off that stuff and quit airing the family laundry? You're going to get in trouble. But I did it. Okay, and I'll get to that at the second part. Specifically, this whole thing about a project manager, well, even more specifically, why wasn't the whole Board of Selectmen involved like they were in getting the casino approved? Why did some group of people, Republicans, Democrats, otherwise, take it upon themselves to hire the town attorney to give it the right wording? This is the typical example of the controversy that exists right now with this legal subcommittee from this Board of Selectmen. It's another divisive tool that's not in the best interest of the town. Okay? So we're going to go to town meeting and we're going to vote on this and we're going to discuss it, but it's really without forward planning. My idea that you've heard ad nauseum from me, even in writing, would be, and I said it to you on a one-on-one, we need to have a lockbox like they do down in the legislature, only they don't put it in a lockbox, okay? We put it into a general fund. We need to have a lockbox, but mine wasn't for how to have the funding for the mitigation. Mine was the same old story that you guys have heard time and time and again, and nobody's acted upon. What we need is professional town management. You mentioned it again tonight, Dick.
Yep.
You sure did. And what were you saying a year ago? Worst idea in the world. Screwed up so many other towns. I'm saying.
Dick did not say that.
No, I did not.
Well,
I've
to
been
me
town
personally, years
manager
ago.
for years.
Well, okay.
Town administrator, excuse me.
You know what?
No back
And
and
you're,
forth.
you're making a
Okay,
political.
okay.
Made it very political on Facebook.
I did.
Of course.
I did make it very political on Facebook. Okay? And that doesn't mean that we can bury our head in the sands. We have an ordinance that we're going to have come before a town meeting now, and we're going to vote on it. We're going to vote on it with the present member of the Board of Selectmen to appoint who's going to administer this fund. We don't have a town manager. We don't have a professional director of finance like they do in Ellington. Okay? And we're going to have a different Board of Selectmen come November, without doubt in my mind. Okay? So, we've already done it. My idea was to take the additional 5 to 6 million in tax revenues and hire that HR person that can write the job description for a town manager, an economic development professional, and etc. And we're rushing to spend the money before we even got it right now, and it's going to be out of control over who handles it, and it will be very political at that time.
Further public participation. Yes? Ed Philippone, 22 Scannick Road. Thank you, Jason, for getting us started. I think it's a good start. I think it's an overkill in some respects. Don't estimate the construction capabilities of Mashantucket. I've been involved with construction projects, and they get them done. And if they get held up, it's going to be because of the town of East Windsor. I wasn't here during all of the negotiations earlier this year, but from what I understand, the board asked the chief and his chief of police and his deputy to research the impact on police services. He did. He made a recommendation. I believe the board approved it. It was a presentation made to the Mashantuckets. I believe they're expecting it. And the reason I'm saying that is $3 million isn't a lot of money when it comes to hiring police. It takes a year to get one on the road at a cost of $75,000 to $100,000. Is that correct? Minimum of a year to get them on the road. And the plan, I'm not sure the exact number, doesn't, is the plan, how many to hire? 14. There's $1.4 million, not counting cars and blah, 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 blah. And this is what they came up with, this is what they said we need. I'm smart enough to know what I don't know, and I don't know if that's the right number, okay? But there is a number, and before you start divvying this up, and I don't think you need somebody to do it, because if you fund the plan as presented, you're not going to have $3 million to spend. You're going to have about $1 million. Thank you.
Okay, further comment?
Tom Salamini, 22 Rice Road. I hope when this all comes, and it comes to the planning and zoning, building department, I hope the town has enough sense to hire professional engineers to get the permitting process through very quickly, and have an engineer on site at all times. That's how the big companies do it. All the big developers, they do that. The towns will hire an engineer to stay on site. We can't expect Brandon to try to do that in his normal job. It's just impossible. Same as Laurie's office. It's just impossible to hire. We should hire an engineer just for this job. I mean, we got the money for it. That's what this money is for. That's what we should do. then we're not holding anybody up. And I think it is right. 15 months, these guys they'll throw a casino up in 15 months. This is 200,000 square foot. They're gonna throw it up in a heartbeat.
Awesome. Good, thank you. Yes.
Rick Laborious, 16 Church Street. I'm always pleased when the town looks forward and looks ahead and anticipates what might be coming down the road. And so I think the ordinance is both appropriate and timely. And I congratulate those who put it forward. If there was talk earlier about hiring a professional, with the mitigation funding and the ordinance in place, the town could hire a professional finance manager and possibly even combine the position to a director of finance for the town and a mitigation fund manager, and pay them out of the mitigation, mostly out of the mitigation fund. It might be something that gains us an advantage not only in managing the mitigation fund, but also in managing our town affairs as well. So we might look that direction. Also, when the town meeting does occur, if there are areas where people want to see improvements to the ordinance, there's an alternative to offer amendments. And I personally have some concern with the 3-member board or the individual, and I might come and offer an amendment that changes that just a little bit. I like the idea of removing it from the political sphere, but I also would like to see it have some base within the community, some significant input from the community. So, but the general purpose, the general direction of it, I think is wonderful. And I congratulate those who put it together. Thank you.
More public input? Okay.
Bill Lowes Road. I don't know where we get these big ideas for putting 14 police in over there, but I'm sure they went to other towns to look at them. But I was at the casino up in Saratoga a couple of weeks ago. There was no police around at the casino up there. It's about the same size as what they're going to put in up there. And when I was down at the casino down here, one guy threw his cards on the table. 2 guys walked up to him, walked that guy right out of the casino as fast as he could turn around. So they police their own people. We don't need 14 police over there policing this thing. If you think the State Gaming Commission is not going to put state police in over here, I think you better think again. Because I think the state police are going to come in over here. I already know a couple state police that have said that they think that the state is going to take over the policing of that thing, like they did down at the casino down there, until they can take it over themselves. So I think we're jumping ahead. We're going to hire 14 police this next 6 months or 1 year period. I've talked to some officers that are retired from Hartford. You get them in there right away. They don't need any training. Lieutenant, captains, everything else, they're resigning over there. They'll come and does town here if they want. You won't have to pay them the big salaries either. So I think we're jumping ahead. We're going ahead and hire police and everything else until we get that settled. I think the state is going to come in and straighten you out.
Yeah, John.
John Matthews, Melrose Road. I don't think anyone's against having a project manager for this. You know, having some of the elements that have been proposed. My concern is that we're talking about something we call a mitigation fund, and it's been designated in the agreement to be $3 million. Now we have a charter that defines how we approve expenditures, and that charter is designed to have checks and balances in it. And what I'm concerned about with this proposal is that we would have this $3 million set aside, can only be used for mitigation, whatever that means. But I only heard the word checks and balances once. by one of the selectmen here, and that was after at least an hour of discussion. And that's what concerns me. I'm very close to the charter. I think almost daily about how we can improve the checks and balances for this town. How we can assure that some small group of people isn't going to have control of a fairly large funding. You know, if you look at the charter, 7, 8 years ago, we asked the town, would you approve increasing the spending by the board, approval of the spending by the board from 20,000 to 30,000 without going to town meeting? It was voted down. People feel pretty strongly about how we spend the money. So I don't see that in this proposal, the checks and balances. What I see is $3 million is going to go in this fund, and some individual, some group of individuals is going to decide how we spend it. Whether we need the $3 million or not, it may turn out we only need $1 million. I don't see why the funds don't go in the general fund, and we go along from time to time. You can approve a project manager for all of this, and we don't go along from time to time and go to town meeting and get approval for the things that we need. That's what I'm looking for, it's the checks and balances to the system. I also would like to see something this momentous go to referendum. Because we don't get a lot of people at town meeting, so you could, not that it's stacked tonight, but you could easily stack the town meeting by bringing 20 additional people to it. And I don't think that would be representative of what the town voters would like. So if you're going to do this, I'd like to see it go to referendum. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else? All right, we'll go on to the next. Jason.
I move to reconsider the approval of the town ordinance.
Okay. Is there a second?
I'll second that for discussion.
So, Mrs. D'Souza made a valid point about an omission in section 1. I'm going to ask the board reconsider it, amend section 1, and resubmit it to town meeting. That's the goal.
I believe your motion was to rescind this motion?
The motion was to reconsider approval of the ordinance.
Okay.
Motion to reconsider has to be made by...
So we'll vote on that. Will all those, is there a further discussion?
Are we gonna make that change to
Yep.
section 1?
Yep, and then put it right back to town meeting.
Tonight.
That's my goal.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor of reconsidering it?
Aye.
Aye.
All right, we're going to reconsider it.
So I move to amend section 1 to say, in line 3, town's utilization of the $3 million upfront payment and subsequent annual impact funds.
I'll do it. Okay, second.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? No. Okay.
So you were in favor of that when we
Aye.
did it for number 3, but
I'm just not in favor of this proposal tonight. That's why I'm not in favor.
Or Jim goes
I
to
move
sleep.
to submit the amended town ordinance to town meeting.
Second.
Okay.
All in favor?
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, so we got through that. Now, veterans.
Jim looks pretty bored back there.
I'll talk about
So, Bob, Since we've been going for a little while, before we get into that, could we just take a 3-minute break? Just so we can
All right, all those in favor of a 3-minute break?
Aye.
You're a big sport. You awake, Jim?
Guys, my request.
I'm not sure. You don't have more tea time.
You think you're worn out? Worse than
I did.
Well, you know,
and then you have to go to what's best for the
that's been the back and forth stuff since we started, you know, public input. Public input.
Setting precedents, and it's a mistake.
no contract.
As we go, we make our rules, we go, rewrite all our I'm glad John did his. It's only quicker than I was about deserves a referendum.
Whatever. I'm sorry. It is now 9:30. I'm here, that's on the agenda. And something was taken out of order, and it pushed me out. And I drive to Toronto tomorrow morning. I'm not so happy at the moment, see. So, I got an hour drive. Toronto. It's gonna be a hell of a drive. And I'm gonna get friggin' tea. And I'm gonna be very
Big spotlight. It cost me like $20 a month.
I have no choice. Well, I've got something to say.
We'll see the argument to get out. $20. $8 a month of water.
This is the meter charge.
Like a state.
Feel
Kids fighting over the state.
either get its own meeting
The next board is
or be done in a special meeting separately because it's so complex. It doesn't exist here now. This is the wrong time.
I mean, sure, legally.
It's on the agenda, it says casino. That's not
They got
enough.
this email Saturday morning. No, it's a terrible, the only worst communication in the world is texting and text messaging. I mean, messaging, Facebook messaging.
I'm not, I mean, I'm anything.
I am too.
You can't do your control early. I'm in favor of that.
I couldn't look at that. What is it,
Wait, to my desire, maybe you can hire professional.
Yeah, right.
With a master's degree in municipal finance, but you gotta have the HR person to do that to begin with.
I know.
And that's where it's all.
I just came here for my friendship.
Bring that to
I was on
Years ago, I go around the beach. Overnight, I read about years when I was a slime machine and all. So I really want to Like how good their security is. It took me a black box. For 20 years, and everything else, I saw the cameras for the security, and everything else. Carefully watched me, right? They have a lot of my pistol and disassembled it, and they black box it, he had one piece and another or something like that. Very professional, like he said, how many they got there? They do it. Our cops are not.
Well, I talked to police the other day, and they finally followed up and decided what they were going to do.
That's what it is. If we can get some
same guy that I told him, got the same identical bench, the same, you know. Yeah. Oh, okay.
But for today, she was doing wisely.
Well, one is going to be for Bob Watson, one is going to be for your veterans, and one's going to be for
Thank you. That's what we do. Not how many votes.
He's going to work.
What you say about that shirt? You don't do
I've already got one.
I don't like the idea of money. I don't like the idea of because the easiest thing the politicians can do that are running for the more and the more to reduce taxes instead of increase revenue.
Yeah, right. Probably never at this rate. I have no idea.
I get a picture. Look at that, you see it, Bob? However, you gotta prove it, I think, stands. Because we're from the West, you know.
I don't care. You guys fumble around all
don't want to go replace the sidewalk. Same with the water, you can jack it, you can blow that through.
I'm going to call the meeting back to order.
He's doing well.
Okay, Jim, take it away.
Okay, the reason I wanted to come tonight is to update everybody on the project on the green.
We are nearly at our goal for fundraising, so we intend to start construction next month. And the design has changed slightly from what we presented almost a year and a half ago. I could let Jay talk about that a little bit.
With regard to the design, the first, I guess, rendition that we showed you basically showed the memorial with the paver patio, if you will, around it. And we have since added a couple of more walks with a connection to the walk at the intersection of Main and Bridge Street, and another walk that essentially connects to the back to that existing concrete walk that goes diagonally through the green itself. So those are a couple of changes that you haven't seen with the first plan that we showed you. The other thing that was added that we wanted to talk to you about a little bit is we're going to add a water service. So we're going to bring in a water service and a meter pit coming off of Main Street off the Connecticut Water Company Main to allow some future irrigation and initially at least a hydrant so that they'll be able to water the landscape and the flowers that are going to be there. Right now there's no way to get any water there. We would have to bring it there. And we thought it would be a good idea to bring the water service. As you know, there is an electric service that's going to be provided. We're showing a meter and electric connection to the pole out on Bridge Street. That's already in the works with the electrician that's on board. The request has been made to Eversource, and we expect that to move forward. So those are really the only real changes that have been made. Actually, there is one other. There's a second monument that was added to the rear, which Jim and Ed can tell you a little bit more about, and another flagpole that's going to be added as well. That wasn't on the first plan that you had in front of you, but I think more specifically, Jim wants to talk to you a little bit about the water and the electric service, I think.
That's correct. Obviously, there are charges, ongoing charges for utilities, and once this project is done, the charges will continue, but the Veterans Commission may not. So, and you know, utility charges are all part, I guess, of a town-wide situation, which wouldn't be separated out for an individual board or commission. So I guess it would be up to you folks to approve or disapprove or whatever expenses for utilities. I put in your package a handout of summary of Connecticut electric rates dated July 1st, 2017. And it appears that we would fall into rate 30, which is at the bottom of page 2. Small general electric service. And this calls for a monthly meter charge of $44.25. And then the energy charge after that. All the lighting that we propose is low energy LED lighting. In fact, the one light that was specified on the plan, that one over there.
There's an LED that's going to illuminate the flag, correct?
That particular light, a year ago, when I talked to somebody at Eversource, I was given a figure for that one of $3.50 a month that would cost. Keep in mind, the electrical service is almost imperative because the flag there is not illuminated, and it should be, and it's embarrassing that it's not. So we want to illuminate that. We want to put some other small illumination for the monuments themselves, and of course the power pedestal where we can plug something in. Our sound system for the Memorial Day ceremonies, and if there are some other uses for the town green, entertainment, concerts or whatever, something that Park and Rec might need some electricity for, that would be there. So, and Len, I asked Len to come, he can talk more about those charges, but I wouldn't see electrical charges being much more than that $45 a month meter fee.
So the electric is like 45 a month, and the water was what?
$7 every 1,000 gallons.
31.06 a quarter.
Yeah, but they got a meter charge too, don't they?
Yeah, but
The meter, that's another handout that I gave you. The meter charge is $31.06 per quarter. So that's like $10 a month. For the meter charge. And then water after that. Now, so we just put in a farm hydrant or something so we can use a hose and water, you know, trees and shrubs and things. That's not much. We would like to put in a lawn irrigation system, even if it's not used. I have some information here that I kind of figured out for charges for that, because that can get a little scary. So what you see there assumes 0.6 of a gallon of water per square foot to deliver 1 inch of water. This scenario here assumes 36,000 square feet and assumes a water charge, which I got from the water company, of $6.92 per 1,000 gallons. So that works, just see those other equations there, that works out to $155.20 to deliver 1 inch of water to the area.
Per quarter?
per week?
155 per quarter?
One per time.
Per watering.
Per watering, for 1 inch. And then we, you know, you can decide if you need water, if you want to do 1 inch a week, 1 inch a day, 1 inch a, however much. If you watered 1 inch a day, which is not necessary, you would get crazy. You know, this year, there wasn't any need for any water, really. So that's where we're at.
And if you were to put in an irrigation system, would it be just in this area around the pavers?
No, we were actually calculating the entire green, which is the 36,000 square feet.
I think that's
that Jim
aggressive.
mentioned.
I ended up turning on my back because it's just too expensive to run. So, I mean, I have no problem keeping the area around the pavers and the monuments, you know, pristine, but I don't know about the back quadrant, whether it's really necessary, but if you're gonna put them in, you're gonna put them in on zones anyway, so you could turn off those zones.
Typically, they would be zoned, and they also would be set up where it would monitor existing precipitation, so that it's not just running, but, you know, you see some people's home irrigation system that would be raining out and the irrigation's on, which doesn't make any sense.
We have that too, but we've just decided in the back of the house, that when the water bill was $500 a month, that got a little excessive, so we decided to shut the water off. But if it's set up for it, that's fine. And then if the zones are out back and water bill gets expensive, then you just turn them off, that's all.
Well, that's what I'm thinking too. I mean, as part of this project, we're going to be doing a lot of digging there. It's probably a good idea to put it in. And if this board or the Board of Finance doesn't think it should be used, it can sit in the ground dormant.
Well, even if you have a budget of X amount a month, you know, and you figure out what you need to use for that, that'll be up to the Board of Finance. But Yeah, I would definitely have it all. If you're gonna put all the access ways in and you run all that piping, you might as well do the whole thing.
So, I mean, I don't know what the requirement is here. You guys are supposed to accept responsibility, or?
I would think that if we're putting this in, you know, we're on a property that's owned by the town of East Windsor, so there's going to be an account set up, and I presume the accounts are going to be in the name of the town of East Windsor when it comes to the electric meter and the water service.
So that's all gonna be part of the overall town of East Windsor electric bill.
Right.
That's true.
Well, and are these rates for the town of East Windsor, or are these just, where did you get these rates from? Because town of East Windsor might have lower
They might have
electric and water rates than what you proposed here.
They might have. That's again why
Right.
Len is here. This electric summary of Connecticut electric rates is just something that I got from electric company.
Well, I'm sure it's gonna be less than that, but. You've spent the money and raised all the funds to do such a beautiful project. It's worth putting in the water and the electric by all means.
We paying for the installation too?
Jason? So one of the things that I think the Public Works Department has been working on around town is, and guys, if you can hear what I'm asking, we've been changing out street lights. Is that right? Replacing old street lights with a new.
Every one of them's been changed at this point.
So have you guys worked with Jim and Jay to see if the streetlights that they're proposing match the ones that you've already changed out?
Well,
are they the same ones?
The ones, the street lights that they've changed town-wide are the regular street lights that hang out over the street.
Yep.
I think they're talking about something that will
More flood.
shine
A
down.
floodlights to
illuminate
illuminate
their-
flagpole?
Yeah,
Right.
Okay,
It's
I
a
misunderstood.
different type of light. It's an LED, but it's not really a street light.
But will you have other solar lights kind of scattered throughout?
There will be some lights on the individual monuments shining up
Yeah.
on the monument, which will be very small.
Yeah.
Kind of like a frog eye LED.
But even if you put some solar lights, well, the
Too
cheap
bad you
ones,
couldn't do
it's
that.
stone ones, so never mind.
It's going to be a grand.
Minimal.
There's even a street light on Bridge Street, which is not over the street, it's turned in over the green. And I'm not sure why that is. It doesn't, it's not really helpful for the flag, or much of the green. And, you know, I don't know, that one could be given back to them or something.
I think that was probably intended to be the flag light.
The flag light, yeah.
The flag's way over there, straight there. So just I don't know who would know the answer to this, but I want to be supportive of both of these things. I think first of all, I think you guys have done an incredible job, and I think that it's absolutely fair to ask us to cover the electric costs and the water costs for the town green. That to me is a no-brainer. My question is, I don't know that the Board of Selectmen can commit the town to this prospectively, or if that's the Board of Finance. Anybody have any sense of that?
Can we recommend
We can recommend to
the
the Board of
approval
Finance.
of the water and the electric to the Board of Finance at their next meeting? I mean, that would be for them to find the money.
That is the correct procedure.
I think,
And we can put it in the budget that we submit to the town for next year. The budget's already,
yeah, when do you expect this to be completed, and when will we start using the water and power?
Well, we think the construction is going to be finished probably at the end of October.
So then you'll be using the electricity in
We'll be using
November?
electricity. I don't know that we'll be using much of any water.
I don't think you'll need the water.
Okay.
Just don't put the meter in until next year. Put the pit in and get everything plumbed in.
But if you're getting all new bushes and plants and all that, you're gonna need water to take care of all that stuff, yeah.
Yeah, October's getting in there, you won't have to drown them too much.
No,
They'll grow pretty much with the weather.
okay, then I guess I make a motion to send the Veterans Memorial Green concerning the water service and the electrical service to the Board of Finance for appropriation, financial appropriation.
Second.
Discussion?
That's the way it has to be.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay.
So just a couple more things. A lot of people have worked very hard on this for a year and a half. It's really gonna happen. And a week from Thursday, there's gonna be a groundbreaking ceremony. What time? 6 o'clock. Everybody's invited.
Okay.
6 o'clock, the 24th.
A week from Thursday.
Yes, 24th.
24th, 6 o'clock?
Yep.
Hey,
I know you guys have been supportive. The Veterans Commission, the American Legion. Jay has been great, as evidenced by 5 minutes to 10. So, really like to thank everybody, and this is going to work out well, I believe, and I think that probably in the spring, we're going to want to do a really nice dedication. So we're going to be working on that.
Well, Memorial Day is going to be awesome.
Yeah.
Well, I think we want to do it on a day other than Memorial Day.
Reserve that thought. Reserve that thought. We haven't talked yet.
It's going to be nice to be down there once this is all done. And Memorial Day is going to be even more special this year.
It is.
Good job.
Great job.
You mentioned all the people that busted your tail, you forgot one, and that's yourself.
Here, here.
You've been, yeah, I'll go with that.
He never realized what a natural salesperson he really is, because he's genuine and believable.
Okay.
It's always nice to put one of them up out in the hall.
Yeah.
Put one up on the board and leave it. People like to see it.
Well, we could post it.
Thank you.
Okay, you want to talk about the Scout Hall generator?
I don't know who else will.
Okay, I was, one reason I put it on the agenda was Dick Pippin wanted the lease, and we did put the lease in.
Well, I'm not worried about the lease. I didn't need.
Oh, okay.
I wanted to know what your proposal is before you lay it on me in the middle of the night.
I was told that to be here tonight, so here I am. Okay, so this is kind of last minute because there's a lot going on trying to get the details done, and there's been a lot of and I gotta do something. It's still today, right?
Yeah, so far.
I was hoping. All right, so I'm not gonna read through this. I'll give you the gist of it. Bottom line is, the question is there a problem installing a large enough generator to support the entire building? Yes or no? Now, some of the changes that have taken place since we last talked and the time before is it's been determined that any generator that's put there that'll support that pump station will be up next to the building. It will not be out by the street. It's too costly and too complicated to try and put one out by the street, because you gotta tear up the driveway and gas lines, and electrical lines, and all the electrical stuff is in place already, right from the building. So the changes are relatively minor, no matter what happens. So the options here are either a smaller generator is put in that'll support the pump station all by itself, or a larger one is put in to support the entire building with controls to even allow the air conditioning to work, and that would actually be smaller than the last one that was mentioned, because the controls can be set up so that the two compressors can't start simultaneously. Okay, so whatever generator gets installed will be owned by the WPCF. Period. Okay?
What is the WPCF?
That's the
Control
facility itself.
facility.
Yeah, as opposed to the authority. I mean, and that means the WPCF would be responsible for all the costs, operations, maintenance, you name it, except we're working with the Scout Hall Building Committee Incorporated to contribute to supporting those costs. Bottom line, no town funding. You won't own the generator, no matter which one it is.
We will own the pump station.
And, well, okay, now that goes back to the original, quote, memo of understanding, which will be necessary. We need something in writing that we both agree that you don't own the pump station. Because right now, it's ambiguous. So that was the original request back in May, that there be a memo of understanding between the WPCA and the Board of Selectmen saying that, yes, we're responsible for it. It's still town property, because the whole sewer system is town property. And the permit that allows the sewer system to function is issued to the town, not to the WPCA, WPCF, whatever. The town of East Windsor gets the permit. The town of East Windsor is ultimately responsible for the sewer system. The fact that it's being handled by that department independently of the budget and all that is good. That's fine, and that would include this. But without a memo of understanding, we need something on the record that identifies that that's no longer, or however it gets worded. Don't care about the wording, I just want it to work. That the WPCA and WPCF are basically responsible for that pump station, the generator, whatever's involved. That's the proposal. Also, I copied an email from Ed DeMarco, Chief of Police. He thinks that the Scout Hall would make a wonderful backup shelter. You can say what you want about how many we got, pardon me.
Who's the first one from?
I wrote that.
You reference yourself in the third person.
Very good.
Specifically, your roles as WPCA chairman and as a Scout Hall guy.
Where do I?
As I have been looking into scenarios for both the standalone generator and a generator for the entire Scout Hall building, I contacted WPCA Chairman Anderson and let him know of my concerns.
Sorry, okay, that was Art Enderle because it specifically has his name there.
I see.
He was giving the background.
Yep, okay.
Okay? Okay, he wrote that portion. All right, so the idea is it's not how many potential shelters you have, it's do you have one when you need it, where you need it.
Well, the unit that they have Isn't that portable?
Yeah, portable unit doesn't connect to anything unless you
Have
put in the
controls,
connection
yeah.
capability, or you do like they do at the high school and you butcher it because you get it working and you're running and who cares? Okay, here, it would be a non-issue, and that's the whole point. Now, and that's all we're looking at, because it's town property. However, keep in mind that a generator is gonna be put on a pad right outside that building, and it's gonna be connected to the wiring that feeds that pump station and/or the wiring that feeds the hall. Depends on the size. It doesn't, that's it. That's the only options available.
That sounds good to me.
That sounds
So
great.
we're simplifying this as much as possible.
Thank you.
But it wasn't designed to simplify it. It turned out that the only practical location for a generator is next to the building. So, that goes back to the question. Got a problem? Yes or no? There you go.
Sounds good to me.
Because I don't think there's...
You want a large enough generator to support the entire building?
Yep.
No problem. Not town money. It's gonna support the building, it's gonna support the pump station.
Everything that's needed.
So,
So all
That's
we
a-
gotta do is give them an agreement
MOA.
that they own the,
We need something that can be signed by both parties, so we get rid of all this background paperwork that none of us could figure out. We sat in a meeting and hashed this stuff. You can read, in one document, you can read conflicts of who owns what. Total nonsense. It's time to get it down in writing, so this goes away forever.
let them put the generator up, let them take over the pump station, let them pay for the generator and give it all to the building. Well, it'd be the Scout Hall, right?
Yeah.
Scout Hall and
I'm sorry.
WPCA.
Nope, WPCA is gonna own it, period.
On the
So
pump
the
station.
generator will be
So-
WPCA as well.
They're paying for it.
It's still, okay, it's still up in the air of which generator's going in. That isn't the point. The point is, do you have a problem?
Go ahead.
Because
question.
Not at all.
When we do this memo of understanding, we need to clarify a few different things.
Right.
We need we need to state that the WPCA owns basically is the pump station is the
Responsible for,
property.
I think,
We also need to
responsible
give
for-
them permission to install their generator at a site suitable and to use whatever electrical switching gear is needed within the Scout Hall building to make this happen. That'll give you the rights to do it, the rights for the underground wire, but we've got to do this thing complete.
Okay, let me clarify one piece, so there's no question. Okay, what we're looking for is the responsibility for the pump station, to make it part of the sewer system.
Yep.
Which we're not sure it is today. This is clarification. That's what a memo of understanding would be. It's now part of the sewer system, all owned by the town of East Windsor. None of it's owned by anybody except the town of East Windsor. But when it becomes part of the sewer system, the establishment of the WPCA put that responsibility into that organization. But that's already been defined by ordinance. The issue is this part of that system or isn't it? So this makes it part of the system. As far as the generator goes, the generator to support that pump station doesn't require permission, it doesn't even have an option. It is state statute that it will be done.
Yeah, but the key to the deal is by giving you the pump station, that becomes yours, correct?
No, that's not what I said. We take on, it becomes part of the sewer system.
Right.
Which we're responsible for, but it's owned by the town of East Windsor. So we don't take ownership.
Okay.
It's a responsibility.
Okay.
Which is the clarification. Now, as soon as that pump station becomes part of the sewer system, a generator will be installed by statute. It's not an option.
And it's the intention at this point that that will be large enough to run the pump station in the building, right?
That's up in the air because the Scout Hall Building Committee is going to have to contribute to that, and that hasn't been decided as of this moment.
So we're not responsible.
There's gonna be, you wouldn't be responsible in
For
either
the
case.
Scout Hall.
And-
We're only responsible for the WPCA and the sewer and
All I'm saying is, which generator gets installed hasn't been determined, but that's something outside of here. It isn't, you're not paying for it, you don't have a decision in that, it's a matter of, is there a problem doing it if that works? If we're able to put the deal together, is there a problem?
Is the only decision that is for us to make whether or not we turn over ownership of the pump station
No.
to the WPCA?
I don't even know, I don't think you want that decision. I think, no, I'm sorry. Is there a, the town owns the Scout Hall property and everything on it.
Yep, that is leased out.
And that may be so, but you're still the owner. The ownership and is more important. So, if the WPCA has to put in a generator goes in that supports that pump station. That's the law. That will happen. If an agreement is reached with the Scout Hall Building Committee Incorporated to take care of maintenance, funding, and expenses and all this type of thing, do you have a problem putting a bigger generator in that would support the hall? That's it. That's what I'm asking. The memo of understanding to me is something that we're doing for a legal clarification.
So the question is, would we be opposed to something bigger being put there to serve more purposes?
Correct. That's exactly it.
but still at no charge to the town.
Right. Because it won't happen.
Right,
If it was gonna be a cost to the town, it wouldn't happen.
right.
It's that simple. It'd just be the smaller generator and the pump station will
Hallelujah,
work.
go for it.
I have no problem with a larger generator being put there if an agreement is reached to serve more purposes.
I'll second that.
I don't even know what that was.
I don't think that's a motion.
Sounded good to me. It's getting late, I'm getting tested.
You think?
So basically, all you want is permission to put in a bigger generator.
Or not.
No, you just
Yeah,
want to.
well, you
From
could
the
say
regular
it that
size
way.
from the pump
Yeah,
station to
that's
go to a
right.
bigger one.
To go to
you can run the
something
whole
bigger to
thing.
do the whole thing.
So that's what you're asking, if you can put in a bigger generator.
Yeah, because it's your property. We can't do that without you involved.
So you're required by law to put in a generator.
Correct.
Or the pump station.
The pump station has to have emergency powers by law, so it will. The fact that it's the practical place to put it is on town property, well, it's on town property, and it's all town property. So it doesn't matter, it's just a matter of physical location. Now it comes down to, well, if you're gonna put this in, why don't you put that in? If you can do it. It's a financial issue, not a practical issue.
And it's not our financial issue.
It's not your financial issue.
So what kind of a motion would you like?
No, not until you see an MOU.
No, I'd say we're gonna produce an MOU.
When you see an MOU, then we make
And
a
then
motion.
what, so,
It's still a
Paul
moving
and I'll write
target.
one.
Well, okay, there's another factor here. In September, a generator is gonna be installed. You guys can do whatever you want, but a generator's going in. If no agreement is made, it'll be a little tiny wasted money generator, and that's what you'll have. We don't have time for this, things have to happen, because they have to happen. We don't have the time to waste on getting power to that pump station, period. So, that's gonna happen. It can be this size, it can be that size, but it's going to happen. And it's not gonna get changed out later. It's a one-shot deal. That's not to put pressure on you. There's no time left. This has been going on since May. Time's up.
There's still a moving target.
Nope.
You need 4 corners of the paper. What are you doing? That's simple. What are you doing? We are doing this, 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 and this. Fine. That's all we ask, and that's what I asked for tonight. What are you doing? It's still a moving target, and it's been a moving target since what, April? Put it in writing.
You have it in writing.
I think he's trying to.
I gave it to you in writing. However, The choice is yours. Bigger or not bigger?
I want bigger.
Bigger is better.
Bigger is better.
That's the question.
Is,
I have no objection to it, but I would like to see it done in the proper manner.
It is being done in the
It's
proper
been-
manner. Permits pulled, the whole thing. It's going to.
Pushing this thing, trying to
August
backdoor
15th,
it.
2017, the question is there a problem with installing a large enough generator to support the entire building? That would add entire building and pump station.
Pump station's
Pump
going to be
runs off the
supported
building.
regardless. Currently connected to the building, so that's a.
Not gonna change all the electrical.
That's not a,
That
that's
would be
not our,
crazy.
I don't care what they do.
No, they're gonna put a transfer switch in and transfer the whole load from the line to the generator.
Whatever.
And that's
but
gotta
it-
be done no matter which generator they use.
One way or another, some of that's gotta be done. It's either you isolate it to these power lines, or you do the whole thing.
I'm gonna say something here. This
Thank
guy
you.
came in here trying to put before us a deal where it isn't costing this town a dime.
Yep.
And the reason he's doing this is because this Board of Selectmen can't get its act together on supplying that building with the right size generator that it so needs. Well, okay, this is, so they had to go out on his own and come in and make this deal with us. And here we are, we're beating the guy up again. When does it stop? When does beating things to death on this table stop?
I think
Jason's first.
I'm gonna make a motion to try and move this along.
Now I wanna discuss it one thing.
Okay, oh wait.
If somebody that sits on this board ever made any meetings of the CIP and followed some of the procedures that have been long established in this town, you would know that that Scout Hall generator is on the CIP list and it's been rated. That's my issue with this whole thing.
Okay, can Jason make his motion?
Now,
Well, does anybody wanna? I'm ready.
Go.
Just do it.
I move to allow up to an 80 kilowatt generator to be installed on the Scout Hall property at no expense to the town.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Or do you want to second that, Steve?
Go ahead, I'm gonna vote for it anyway.
Well, I want to give you the opportunity.
That's all right. My motion comes
Okay, any
forward.
further discussion?
No.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay,
now we need that MOU.
okay, I'll work on that.
Okay,
Next meeting?
go for it.
Actually, you don't need to do that. I think you can, well, yeah, you guys can do it. You can approve the thing and then it can get signed and it's over.
Right.
That's all.
Okay.
Okay.
I gotta be on the road at 7 heading for Toronto. I can't do anything.
Tax
Good job,
refund.
Paul. Don't forget your
I'm gonna
passport.
be on the road at 5.
Tax refund.
I make a motion to approve the tax refunds dated 8/10/2017 in the amount of $7,046.07.
Second.
All do- Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Okay. Okay, selectmen's reports.
So I'm the lucky one, I guess. About the only thing I have is we attended the East Windsor Historical Society Ice Cream Social, and very impressive, very well done. And I'll tell you what, you never saw so many cars parked in Scannick in your life. It was well done. All of the meetings that I usually attend just happen to fall not during this report. That's it.
Okay, Steve.
Well, Dale already talked about it, Dick talked about it, but the house, I seen it when they were starting it. And I gotta give them a lot of credit. They did a hell of a job on restoring that old house.
It's beautiful.
It's more like a miracle.
It's nice, yeah, it's a miracle that they got everything
Same
straightened out.
Another 6 months, it would have been in the...
But that's all I gotta say.
And the floors, and it was so well done, the spinning that they did inside, and then there was a wedding that went on in the probate court. Really, really well done.
Get a tour of the attic if you get a chance, and you'll see
Yeah, I did.
exactly what's...
I did, it was neat.
Unbelievable.
So I won't go into that because we already all talked about that. But there were a lot of cars parked and Burnham was out there directing traffic.
Chance to run them over.
That was scary, that was scary. 8-7, Warehouse Point Fire District monthly meeting. Chairman DeCaprio opened the meeting at 7 o'clock, all in attendance except Mike Balf and Dean Saucier. Attorney Carl Landolina was added to the agenda to discuss casino funding of the Warehouse Point Fire District and options for equitable taxes for this district. They formed a subcommittee for casino consisting of the following: Chief Barton, Fire Marshal Austin, Mike Balf, Lou Flynn, and Dean Saucier. Equitable tax had 3 options. 1, open talk with the town about getting back in the budget. 2, go to the legislature. Or 3, take the town to court. There is a new storage shed on the property, and the chief must have signed the paperwork for the approval of the lease purchase of a $60,000 vehicle. Treasurer's report, $131,967.51 remains in the closeout budget for last year. $65,054 will go to capital improvement, and the remaining should go to reserve account or part to CIP. They're going to have a meeting on Wednesday to discuss what they're going to do with that $65,000 as far as whether they need to put it in capital non-reoccurring or put it in CIP or put it in a funding program. Let's see, Glenn and Tony reported on Station 2. The roof is in bad shape. It's been up there for 29 years. It looks like they will need 60 squares to the price of $25,000 to $30,000. Masonry work, caulking, along with pressure washing, another $10,000. Should be fixed sooner than later. The fire marshal report, Lincoln Tech is wide open for upgrades and fines. And 53 Prospect Hill Road, the old Renaissance, paid $9,000 to submit their plans that they need to go back and work on them. Calamar is working with the Selectmen on the tax report, tax rebate. The fire lanes at Geisler's and Post Office have been addressed. Chief report, 216 calls for July, working on 5 lengths of hose. Station 2 phone line has been turned on, and the first payment to Ayotte Brothers for paving Station 1 has been made. Thank you to Environmental Services for the stone and equipment for the shed. Public session, Tony D asked for $55 for each mowing, both stations. He's getting 30 now. I shared FOI concerns with Chair DeCaprio, adjourned at 9 o'clock. Done.
Jason?
On August 8th, I met with Dr. Christine DeBarge, the new school superintendent. I was impressed with what she had to say about her plans for the district and her views on the challenges and opportunities faced by the district and by the town. I was particularly impressed with her desire to improve the somewhat strained relationship between town boards and commissions. I wish her luck as she begins her new role, and I look forward to working with her in the future. That same night, the Planning and Zoning Commission met. They discussed an application for a renewal of a special use permit for the continued excavation of Apothecaries Hall Enterprises, the gravel pit on Apothecaries Hall Road. The Commission voted to approve the extension request with amended conditions, including restrictions on right turns, installation of a protective vegetative barrier, restrictions on load counts, and others. They also approved a request to expand the special use permit to include additional acreage on the property. And they considered a request for a special use permit at Sports World. They were seeking to add an additional 3 outdoor soccer fields and 60 additional parking spaces. The public hearing for that application was continued to a future meeting. I did miss the Historical Society's ice cream social on the 12th, but I understand that they had an outstanding turnout. I want to add my congratulations to John and Dan Burnham and others who worked on the renovation of the Osborne House, and congratulations to Seal Donahue and Jessica Bottomley on the publication of their book, Images of America, East Windsor. I cannot wait to buy a copy.
$20 right here.
You take the square?
How many bucks?
I know where you live.
Oh, that's what I paid. I got it off the internet.
The bulk of my work over the last few weeks has been on drafting the casino mitigation ordinance, and I want to recognize the contributions of Dick Pippin, Geraldine Corso, Joe Sauerhofer, George Mickna, Ed DeMarco, Roger Hart, and Matt Carl. These are very exciting times for the town, and it is truly and sincerely my fervent hope that this ordinance will be considered by a town meeting and create a pathway forward that will allow our town to grow while also preserving our quality of life. Finally, I just wanted to put in a plug for the Hartford County 4-H Fair, which will be this weekend. Come out to the Talon Ag Center and support our local 4-Hers.
Where?
It's a TAC on Route 30.
No, it's at the Fort Town Fair.
It's at the fairgrounds?
Yeah.
The Hartford County one is, I thought, always a TAC.
Last week's was at the
Fort
town.
Town Fair.
Is it tax?
That's Tom
Yeah,
County.
no,
Last
the
weekend.
Hartford County one's a TAC too. I've been there.
No, it's
Hasn't been
at
for
the
years.
Fort Town Fair.
Fort Town Fair.
All right, I'll change that.
Surprise. Either that or I'm gonna make a delivery tomorrow night to the wrong place.
Well, thanks, everybody.
Should make a motion to change that.
Okay, I have nothing further to report. So, public participation. Bill?
Bill Oates. I attended a meeting of Warehouse Point Fire Commission on the August 8th too. And at that meeting, they had a copy of the agreement between the Indians and the town. If nobody over there in our commission in the last 7 months read that agreement, I mean, that's their problem. But they had a copy at that meeting. The other thing is I had about the treasurer. We worked 5 months to get a treasurer. We don't have a treasurer. I object to hiring somebody else to oversee $3 million. I think the town treasurer, you hire a good treasurer, she should be able to take care of that too. I agree to put it in a lockbox, so nobody can spend it outside of the lockbox. So I think we only need one person, not two, to administer these funds. I think a good town treasurer, but you gotta pay her some money to do that. And I think if you look at the towns around the area, they're probably getting up $95,000, $100,000 to be a good town treasurer or administrative funds, not $81,000. Thank you.
Okay.
Bob Light, again, I heard some good things during the comments back and forth about the mitigating ordinance. And I just want to say that I'm glad that you opened it up to public discussion. You went off the agenda and so forth and so on. Communication is so, you've heard me talk about it. It's the most important thing to me in my life, my relationships, everything else. And I heard something that I remembered that made a lot of sense that I wouldn't have thought about myself. One, we really ought to have a referendum on this, and that can happen. The other thing is, maybe we ought to take whatever one of those ABC things are, or make an amendment during the ordinance town meeting, you know, and add to it what somebody said. Maybe you can take some of that money and hire that professional that I've been asking for all along. Qualified director of finance with the job description written by a professional human resources person, okay, to get that job done. And then that's one of the other benefits. What I said to you was that I had a political statement that was personal, kind of, that I was going to make. It was in regards to the article that appeared in the Journal-Inquirer entitled, "Union Leader Says Talks Lack Transparency." And here I am hearing all these things about false press and everything else, you know, and here I'm thinking, you know, I think this guy that was sitting next to me earlier, the reporter Anthony from the Journal-Inquirer, probably did some pretty good investigative reporting. And, you know, and then I thought about the statement that I was going to make in writing to all of you and to my fellow citizens and voters here that I posted on the internet. Bad communication. Because the first thing that I got as an answer on my post was from Jason's mother. And I said,
Out of bounds. Stop.
I'm going to continue. So
my family are private citizens.
Let me tell you what I did.
My family are private citizens.
Absolutely. And because of that, and because of the way I felt about it, I deleted that, and I'm not going to read this statement in public. And I'm going to pledge to you face-to-face communications. If I've got a problem with you, or if I like things that Steve says, I want to do it one-on-one. And I apologize to you publicly for putting that posting on the internet, on Facebook. And I deleted it.
Okay, further public participation? Right.
Since Bob Light brought it up, I have a copy of tonight's JI. And I'm not saying what the reported is accurate, but again, I would just like to caution those that are speaking to the media, be very careful of what you say. Jason did the right thing by turning it over to the attorney. He was questioned. I'm not so sure the other person that was quoted in here did the right thing, because I think it's going to cost the town money. So if something is pending in litigation, and union contracts or litigation, you really shouldn't be talking to the media.
Okay,
Right.
other public participation? Okay, hearing none. Approve the check registers?
Done. I
Done?
think we're done.
Yeah, okay. Then we'll go into executive session?
Anybody added?
Yeah, we're gonna add, those two people, Bill and Susan. What's your last? Well, we're not yet. First, we're gonna go in with, Carol. Yes, sir. Okay.
Well, we need the names, so
All
we'll
right,
make the motion.
and Lynn Orton? Actually, I'm not sure. Okay, all right.
We just paid your second anniversary.
Thanks, your anniversary.
53 years. Hey, Jim.
Bob.
And it's not the.
You're here.
Oh, I know.
No, not anymore.
Anybody else want books?